Hello, everyone out there. Welcome in to the most prestigious show on Retro Tech YouTube this fun and Friday evening. And first off, I want to make sure that we are live. So if there's a live soul in the house, can you please give us a little confirmation in that chat room?
Oh, you're going. I see the stream. You're going.
We're going. Good. So, sorry about that delay. However, again, tonight we're going to talk about the most prestigious of all gaming systems, the Neo Geo. And I thought, why not bring on my good friend, the expert, Mr. 8-Bit Esquire. And
of course,
you know, before the stream actually went live, we were sitting here talking to ourselves for 2 minutes in stupid, gaudy character. And so now we'll just come live to everyone because I see the chat catching up. We're here.
But they're like, yeah, you're drunk already.
I haven't even poured anything yet. They just, I already, like, I missed my cue. I was grabbing the bottle off the boxes, and it doesn't really matter.
Yes, Mr. Nutter, that was a wonderful introduction. You know, a couple of one percenters like you and I, there's really nothing that can satiate our palate for video games, much like the Neo Geo AES. And really, I don't think any of the peons that are joining the chat right now could really comprehend the magnitude of the Neo Geo AES. Really, only sophisticated, distinguished gentlemen like you and I could really talk about it in this type of capacity. So I think it'd be great to let the commoners in, let them behind the curtain, see all of the 24 bits of power that the SNK Neo Geo AES can deliver. And maybe, just maybe, if they have the wherewithal, I doubt it given their feeble brains, but maybe they have the wherewithal to maybe learn a thing or two this evening about the awesome power of the Neo Geo. And you brought an ale of some type. You brought
an ale. No.
You brought some whiskey,
my friend. Oh. Yes, this is only sophisticated stuff we have here. Remember? Of course. Let
the Neanderthals drink their Bud Light.
Yes, come on now. We got to have some kind of distinguished. I've got a dual cask, and of course finished in a French oak barrel, straight bourbon whiskey, from the Filibuster Distillery. So that's what I will be pouring this evening.
They serve that at my club. Lovely.
Of course they would, yes.
Yes.
Because it's only the good stuff for the good club, you know, so that's...
Of course.
That's
where we sit around, we talk about Neo Geo, we talk about how only real gamers play with HD Retrovision cables and things of that nature. Nothing from Ali Direct here. Nothing from Amazon. Just the best.
So let's talk a little bit, because let's be honest, the people who tuned in tonight, they are extremely lucky to get this view behind what we shall call the curtain, because I've spoken with a lot of people high up in the Neo Geo AES collector community and circles, and these are the kinds of people, you know, you can't just look them up in the phone book, you know. So they're very pleased with your perception of the AES and how that collection continues to go to the moon.
Well, you're getting a little too close to the line here, because you can't talk too much about the collector community. We will find you and we will kill you. So let's salute
shut
our yap there, Nutter. Yes, salute to that. Yes, salute. We have a lot of people that have joined us. Oh, I see Neo Alec. My friend Neo Alec is here. That's great.
Well, excellent.
We got Dubes and Hauser here. He's in the house.
Awesome.
We got a lot of guys in here, so this is great. I hope everybody's drinking tonight.
Yeah, hopefully you got your kids put away to bed if you have them, or maybe your neighbors, they got their kids to bed early. And you don't have
talk
to
about
listen.
what I'm drinking.
Oh yeah, let's see.
My law partner brought back, and I'm not trying to be in character. Like literally,
Right.
This is this is actually the shit. He went to vacation in Hilton Head and he brought back this thing called Anita's Choice, a 6-grain bourbon whiskey. It's it's almost 100 proof, 99 proof. And it's good. It's got a good spice to it. I'm gonna be good and liquored up. But I'll do my best to not swear within the first 10 minutes.
Well, you've already done it. You already swore.
Oh, I did?
And I think it's only 5 minutes. So
Oh, it's 5? Okay.
yeah, thanks to our fantastical entrance, we're good. So yeah, basically, I think maybe something's going on here. Nope. Okay. Anyway. As I speak about the Neo Geo AES, I'm going to demonstrate it for you on the peasant version, right?
Oh, the peasant version. I wouldn't know the peasant version, so this
is probably the version most of our viewers are used to, is the Chikara version. So, but anyway, I have a. Actually, I'll swing your view around so you can see it. This little PVM.
Yeah, there we go.
So the reason we were on a slight delay this evening, folks, is I actually had a Sony PVM 14L2 set up on the cart here, and it was going. And Roger and I were getting set up for the show, and 2 minutes before we were supposed to be live, it just stopped working. And so, thankfully, that happened before the show started, so I was able to swap it out with this Olympus. And, it's interesting. This one is one that's from Japan, Roger. It's not...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an OEV that's from Japan. Like, if you look at the back label, it's in Japanese. And
because the OEV doesn't have a J at the end of its model number, if it is Japanese. I don't think it does. The only way you could tell is if, it's in Japanese on the back. That's it.
Yeah, this was one of the ones that I unboxed from the same box, that you had from the Japanese shipment. So it survived, and that's what I'm using. And yeah, this ROM just seems to keep dying or something. So it's not a very good ROM that I have here going. So anyway,
it's
so bad. It just craps itself out. So we'll get something else on there, but. We'll get started. Just really coming in to hang out tonight, everybody. And I think that Roger confronted me with something that maybe we should talk about once we get a good drink or two in. Because I think
we are going to talk about that.
I think it's quite funny. I mean, why not? Right?
It's hysterical. Well, I didn't clear it with Lewis. I should have cleared it with Lewis first.
Right. I guess. Right. So we could just. We'll just say it's not Lewis or something, right? No one will remember at that point.
It's Luis.
Luis.
It's your friend
Luis. Yeah. Too bad. Lewis is good at bed at this hour. We're actually catching him at like 3 a.m. So salute to Lewis. But anyway, let's get into the Neo Geo, and I want to say congratulations on another awesome video.
Thank you.
I watched it and it was hilarious. I was watching it and all of a sudden it started screwing up. I think I got like 15 minutes into it, and it was simultaneously the same moment you must have pulled it down.
Oh,
because then it was saying YouTube has removed this video, and I was like, oh gosh. I thought, let's talk about what, as a new YouTuber, what was the instance that made you do this? I'd like to know.
So, okay, some context. I'm gonna go way back. I have the full support of my wife in making this content. I wanted to make sure I cleared it with her first because it's such a time commitment, and I didn't want her to get upset that I was spending so much time editing and filming and all that stuff. And she said, well, how long do you think the episodes are going to be? And I said, oh, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most. And she's like, okay, well, yeah, that seems easy. That seems like something you could do. So I made the first one, and the first one was like a half hour, just under a half hour, 29 minutes. And she's like, hey, what happened to 10, 15 minutes? And I was like, it's my first episode. I kind of have to get the series going. I got to get, plus we're talking about the Famicom, and I got so much to say about it. And she's like, okay. I said, but the next one's going to be short. And then I get to going on this one, and she's like, how long is this one? I'm like, it's, well, I got Scarlet Sprite stuff. He I told him do like 1-2 minutes, and he gave me like 5. She's like, oh, well, how much? Well, how much is it? And I said, I'm up to 37 minutes. She's like, 37? 37 minutes? And I said, yeah, I'm at 37 minutes. And so anyway, so I'm putting in all this time, and like, Steve, you probably can sympathize with this. Like when you're making a video, like when you're first making your A-roll and you film it and you're done with it, you're like, man, this is crap. Like, this is going to be so bad. No one's going to like this. I'm going to quit. I'm going to publish this and I'm going to quit because it's going to be so bad. And then you start shooting your B-roll and you start getting your game clips and you start editing it together. And then like 2/3 of your editing process, you're like, this actually isn't half bad. This is pretty good. And so I got like to the point at the end where I was like proud of it because it felt like a really big improvement from my first episode. And I went to encode it because I wanted to encode it. If nobody does any video production, like if you shoot too much without enough light, you'll get a little bit of a grain. Sometimes you'll see a little bit of noise that shows up in some dark areas of your image. And I use a free program called Handbrake on the Mac, and it's real easy. They have a little bit of a grain filter, and it kind of softens the image just a little bit, but it takes away that grain. So it's a pretty good trade-off. So I did that, and when you encode it, it shrinks down the file size too, so it takes less time to upload it to YouTube, which is great, because it takes long enough as is. So when I was done with that, I made the mistake of when you encode it, you set what frame rate you want it to encode at. And I shoot all of my A-roll at 24 frames per second because I want like a cinematic look. And I selected 24 frames per second. And the problem is, like, all of my CRT footage, it's all in 60 frames. Like, all the special effects and overlays that come through, they're all in 60 frames. So anytime any graphics would come over the image, it would be a massive frame stutter because you have inconsistent frame pacing between 24 frames and 60 frames, and it was just a mess. So I watched it, and it's like one of those like, no one else is probably noticing it. Maybe some people are, but that's all I can see. And I'm like, man, I just spent so much time and I felt so good about it, and it's ruined. And I think I was like sending DMs to Bob at the time, and we were talking about the video and everything like that. And I was just like, dude, I got to take this thing off. So I just took it down. I was like, whatever, it's been up for a few hours. I'm just taking it down, and did it the right way. And now, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So I'm sorry that it interrupted your,
I had to go back
your viewing
and start over.
I know.
It's very difficult for me to click on that screen twice with my finger.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes I go past it and I accidentally click the shorts, and I get stuck watching TikTok re-uploads for 25 minutes. And I'm like, damn, where'd all my YouTube time go? So
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It was a great video, and that's a funny thing to think about. And I laugh. Dupes has the right answer for me because I've always had to film in 30 or 60 frames always, just because of the CRTs. They're usually in the background, so I've always used that. I've never used the 24 at all because it doesn't work at all, with the CRT. So. It's I really enjoyed the video. I just was wondering what exactly it was that caused you to pull it down, because I didn't know if it was, sometimes you can put something up and, anybody who's done YouTube for a while has probably had a notice where it says like something gets copyright claimed for some reason. You don't know what it is. I was like, golly, did that happen? So. So Neo Geo, who the guy with the big balls ad, he was like, "You can't use my picture without asking me, you son of a bitch."
Senior editor from Electronic Gaming Monthly from like 1992.
Yeah. So the the Neo Geo, like, it was the super unobtainable thing for me when I was in this age group, because this would have been early 1990s. I would have been about 10, 11 years old when this thing was out. And my parents at that time were like on the cusp of being divorced, and so there was like, I didn't have a lot of time in the game store until kind of a couple years after that, and I remember just sitting there with a friend, and he and I would always just laugh about, man, could you just imagine being like a Saudi prince or
right,
or
that's who had it. That's who had it.
Or like Mark Cuban's love child. You're like, right. I could have had all the Neo Geo games I wanted, right? So it was always something we joked about, how it was just something we only, and even in our area, it wasn't too often I would even see I wouldn't even ever see a MVS machine very often. It wasn't unless it was a hardcore arcade, because I was in the mountains of Virginia and then down in Tennessee. There was more in Tennessee around Nashville, but at the same time, it wasn't a big arcade scene or anything. They were more into the cowboy boots and the boot scooting boogie and riding their horses.
You play video games? What are you?
What are you doing? Yeah. We know what to do with you, boy. Yeah, I'll get you down there in Printer's Alley. Put a nice print on you.
Did you get mushroom
So
there?
thanks for showing up to Belmont and Wrestling with Gaming. Hey man, that's awesome. Actually, I met Wrestling with Gaming and Dubs at the convention in Connecticut. So that was fun. So I hope everybody's doing well since then. That's the last time I've seen a lot of people.
MVS. So I had my local arcade was at my shopping mall. It was right when you first walked in. It was right to the left, and there was no MVS cabinet in that arcade at all. The only MVS that I can remember growing up was at a Pizza Hut, and I don't know if this was a thing with Pizza Huts, maybe because it was big and red, and Pizza Hut was big and red, and I'm talking like the old school Pizza Huts where you would go into the, they had the big wooden booths all along the perimeter of the restaurant, and then inside you had that big salad bar right in the middle, like back when Pizza Hut was the best, it was like the greatest thing ever to go to Pizza Hut for the night. And yeah, there was an MVS cabinet. It was a 2-slot, and they bought this thing like right when they came out because it had Art of Fighting and it had League Bowling. Those were the only 2 games, and that MVS cab was at that Pizza Hut for like 6 years, and it still always had Art of Fighting and League Bowling. And like, I'm your age, I'm 9-10 years old, and I'm like, man, I don't want to play League Bowling. When in retrospect, like League Bowling's the best game.
Yeah,
that's
that's a great game. League Bowling is that's one of the actual MVS cartridges. I have 4 MVS cartridges, and one of them is League Bowling. So
yeah, League Bowling's a blast. But when you're 10, you're like, oh, I want to play Art of Fighting because it looks like Street Fighter.
And then you get your ass whipped.
It zooms in, you get your ass handed to you, and then you play it now, and it just doesn't hold up. Like, it just doesn't hold up very well. At least I don't think. Some of those early SNK fighting games are pretty tough these days. The first Fatal Fury is tough. It's just not. It's not fun to play. It just isn't. But it's not until you get to like the Real Bouts and the King of Fighters that's when those games are pretty timeless. You can play those whenever.
Yeah, they definitely got better over time. Like those, it's for sure.
It's funny you bring up the Saudi prince or whatever, because I had a guy in my comments on that video who says he one of his best friends growing up was his best friend's family were they fled Iran when the Shah was ousted, and the new regime took, this is like in the 80s, and the new regime took control. So he had this I guess they were a very wealthy Iranian family, and he said we would go over to his house, and in his basement he had like a Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet, and he had a Neo Geo AES, and I'm like, it's like Iranian Richie Rich, man. The kid had everything. It was, he had a couple arcade cabs and an AES. Like, I couldn't even comprehend that. Like, nobody I knew had one. I mean, and I grew in a really super blue collar, middle class town in Florida. But the only person I knew that ever claimed to have one was this kid. You probably grew up with a kid like this. Like, no matter what you had, he would always try to one up you. Like you'd be like, oh yeah, well, for my birthday I got Street Fighter 2. He's like, oh really? That's cool. Well, for my birthday, I got Sega CD. Oh wow, okay, well that's cool. You got Sega CD? He's like, yeah, man. I got a Neo Geo too. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Nobody has a Neo Geo. Shut the F up.
Yeah.
He's like, no, man, I swear, you should come over.
Take a break. So
just take a break, dude.
There's the funny thing is though, there was this whole subculture that took off right away, where there is even people. There's jokes. They're still in the forums. You could go see pictures of guys who were in Neo Geo clubs in the 90s, beefed up on crotch rockets, tank top shirts, World's Gym, tan, ready to play Neo Geo, ready to go down an arcade, and they're like the ones who saved up and bought all this stuff. And let's face it, man, those guys back then, if they held on to their stuff, they were smart, because nowadays that stuff took off almost like to a Bitcoin level, where some of those AES games that just are superiorly never going to be anything that someone obtains unless they win the lottery.
Right. Or that everybody brought up that contest that was always in on those magazines with like the 55-inch projection television.
Yeah, you win this.
Yeah. And they had all the consoles were propped up at a 45-degree angle, and Neo Geo's just right there. Which I someone wrote, I can't remember who put it on Twitter, but evidently that was just a massive scam. Like nobody ever won that. Yeah. Nobody ever won that contest.
I thought that would be kind of like similar to that Monopoly scam that was going on at McDonald's, where that was all uncovered years later to be basically a whole kind of a scam. So, yeah, so like personally, I had that. Yeah, like you, I didn't have really. There was like one store I could remember. And this would have been after I moved to the suburbs of Nashville area. And like there was a mall that had a really nice video game store there, and they had, a Neo Geo on the display. But that was the only one, AES, whatever game, I can't even remember. That's the only one I had ever seen then. That was the AES.
Do you remember... like so you grew up, we're talking like early 90s. So you grew up in Virginia at that time, or you were in Tennessee?
Yeah. So I would have been in Virginia till about 96.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this is prime Neo Geo time.
Before then I would have been in Virginia. And then the reason I saw it would have been a couple years later at this like boutique shop where they didn't have it right when it came out, right? They had it a couple years later.
Right.
Because like the shops in Virginia, I just remember going there and they would always be out of stuff. That was always the thing. It was always never in stock, and they would never have a Neo Geo probably.
The one thing I remember from, there, it was like I would never find one to actually purchase. Like I remember there was a Babbage's at my mall, but even then, like I don't recall ever seeing any hardware or software there. But there was, in everything I've read, it said that it was available for rent at, various video stores, but I don't remember ever seeing it at Blockbuster or any of the mom and pop video game rental stores that I had. Did you ever see anything? I never did.
No, I can't.
I didn't even see it advertised.
I can't remember that. No, I not at all. Like, and trust me, I was a kid who rented a lot of consoles. Yeah, I cared about my Blockbuster credit, right? I wanted to make sure my videos were returned rewound, so that I was like yelling at my little sister, "Hey, make sure I had to go back and make sure they rewound the tapes before they get turned in." So I know what like I would go in there, and I remember renting a ton of consoles, but I never saw the Neo Geo there.
No, never. Never. So yeah, I think most kids had the same experience with That's why I said in my video, like it had a speakeasy vibe to it. Like you knew it existed, but you never saw it. Like you didn't know about it. I mean, you knew about it, but you never actually saw it. I mean, the only exposure we've ever had to it was just the MVS. And we knew we could play those games at home somehow. We knew it was really expensive. I know the games exist. They're in GamePro. I see the reviews.
Yeah, right.
I've never actually seen it in person.
And there was always, you could always tell, I mean, always the difference between a ported to console game and I mean like 99% of the time and an actual arcade version. The arcade version was always better. And the idea behind it, and just like you said in the video, the best part was the idea and the marketing, man. The marketing from that team is like full on balls to the wall 90s. Like they could do a Mad Men version 2 probably about ad executives in the 90s and what the hell they were coming up with, right?
Buy our product or you're a pussy. Like that's essentially what it was. It was crazy. Sorry, did I just demonetize you? I'm sorry.
Buy our products or you don't or I mean, no, it wasn't even that. It was like, no, this is actually better than pussy. Playing this machine at home, right? That was the thing. It was like that's what I don't get. Like, I wonder if guys were like, "Hey, dude, I saw you at the club last night, man. Did you go home with that chick?" And he's like, "No, dude, I went home with my Neo Geo though, and that was way better."
I played Baseball Stars Professional, man. Boom! It was sick.
Oh, bro! Hey, let me smell those fingers. Oh yeah, smells like that switch, baby, that micro switch. Oh!
No, but you know what though? You open up those soft tops, those soft boxes you smell those things. They smell awesome. Like they really do. You can
blast it with the new Neo Geo smell. I wonder. Oh man, you just came up with $1 million idea. The Neo Geo air freshener.
Yeah. Do you want to smell what a $250 game smells like? Yeah.
Oh. Ooh, lovely. The smell of nostalgia. So hopefully we haven't.
Have we lost every viewer?
Probably.
We've lost every viewer so far. We probably have. We've gained them. We gained viewers.
That's good. But, you know, my count. My counter on this thing, it doesn't tell me how many people are there. I only know a chat. It doesn't tell me like the number of people.
Oh, I'm looking at it. You got 23 viewers.
Oh, well, hey.
24.
Well, that's good. So, hope everybody's having a fun time like we are tonight. God. So, yeah, if we're going through, the Neo Geo again, and it was one of those things that you kind of always lived in the lore of your brain, and thankfully, like you said in your video, there's a lot of great options to play it now. But I could tell you that was one of my biggest things to try to find was an MVS. And the years I was doing this was kind of the years before anybody was making consoleized MVSs. There were a couple on eBay that were like $700, and apparently those were just like really shitty. So I'm glad I didn't waste some money on them. But that was what was available, and so I got extremely lucky. And this guy who owned some arcades right outside of Nashville again, he owned 2 of them. He lists on Facebook games that he had. I mean, he has hundreds of games. This guy's like a legend, right? His name is Jason Wilson. If anybody's in the arcade scene, they might have heard of this guy. I don't know. He's like supposedly used to be this kid prodigy in the 90s at like Street Fighter 2 or something. I'm not exactly sure. He anyway is he's in the area with these 2 arcades, and he just has them to fulfill like his collection so that he doesn't have to have them in storage. Like it costs him less to run an hourly arcade than it does to just keep them in a storage room. So he always gets these overflows. So one time I see on Facebook Marketplace, gosh, probably 4 or 5 years ago, that he lists one, an MVS, Big Red, 4 slot, says it's working. It's like 15-minute drive from me, and So I'm like, oh, excited. I messaged him right away. Like, if in the first couple minutes, I'm like, I'll come get it right now. I'll come get it right now. It's like $250 was the price for it.
For the whole cab monitor.
Whole cabinet. It had a good monitor, had a working PCB, 4-slot. The only thing is there was a couple of, I think the LED things were out, the backlights.
Whatever.
Sorry. And those are replaceable. I got actually kits to replace all that, but that I got that from him. I went down there and I literally had a Jeep Commander, and I slipped it in the back. Thanks Dan B for the super chat. He says Jason Wilson.
Super chat. Look at you. There you go.
So Jason Wilson was a big game collector. Yeah, he's a huge game collector. Like the dude, supposedly the guy went. I'll run into people like behind the scenes and I'll tell them this story that I got the cab from Jason Wilson. They'll be like, really? I knew him from this and that. And he apparently went and called all the winners in the Nintendo Power magazine that won the tournaments where they gave away the cartridges to the champs. And he called
World Championships.
And he called and bought those from like half of those dudes that were in it. Just like from bugging them through the mail and hassling them through their way. Hey, he's got a bunch of them and he sold one for I think the most, money. He goes to these the show I do in October. That's in Nashville. He goes there and he has like who knows how many machines he brings. He sets up a whole pinball tournament. And it's like Roughneck Pinball Tournament. It looks like something out of the movie. God, what's that? Over the Top. You remember that Stallone movie?
Top. Yeah,
where he's like
Stallone,
a trucker, and it's like 1980s.
Driver, the arm wrestling movie.
Yeah, it's like that rough crowd in pinball room in this convention center, and he's the one who runs it. But that's the guy I bought this machine from. And I mean, I remember going in and looking at it, and I was so stoked. And he was such a big shot. He didn't even come down and sell it to me. Like he had an employee from the arcade meet me at his storage area, and he's like, "Yeah, just sell the machine. Make sure you take all the games out of it." And I'm like, "Hey man, can I talk to him for a second?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I talked to him on the phone. I'm like, "Hey man, I don't care. Can you charge me extra?" There's Cole right there. Can you charge me extra and give me at least one game to play? And he said, "Oh man, you don't want to do that." And I said, "Well, I got to have something to play." He's like, "Yeah, but you can't do that with these games, man. I bought this machine." He's like, "I have 10 of these machines. I don't need the machine. I bought this machine specifically because it came up for auction and it had these 3 games in it in the 4 slots. And each one of those 3 games was worth, in MVS, was a $3,000 or more game. Just the game cartridges."
What was in there?
I do not remember at all. But they were like really, those fighting games that no one really plays. That, again... Right. It's something that is just kind of rare. So again, they can get up to
where's Neo Alex?
Like $1,500 to $3,000 for these games or something. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, no, you're right. I can't do that. But I was the thought of finally getting this machine and then not having anything to play on it was killing me. And he's like, "Look, just come down to my other arcade." And I went down there and he sold me Fatal Fury 3 and Super Sidekicks, like I can't remember which one. And then finally Neo Turf Masters, which
that's all you need.
That's all I needed to get started. That was awesome. And I was like, and it was like $100 for all 3 of those games. And I was like, yes. Perfect. And so that's how I got mine. I had that. But man, since then, that thing, like the board has crapped out on me. And so I had moved everything to the Mr. Kade now. It's just too much easy. Fits right in that cabinet. I can play any MVS game easily on that. No problem. Plus a bunch of other stuff on there. So that's kind of what it goes to.
That's why I asked Joe to do the video with me because he's Captain Neo Geo, right? So yeah. I mean he's got the complete set. He's got the complete MVS set. He's got the Big Red. He's got the consoleized MVS. But even despite all of that, I knew he was such a huge fan of Mr. Kade because it's replaced it. Like there's no there's no reason to have all that crap anymore. I mean, it's cool to display. I mean, it's certainly a, keepsake. I mean, it's cool to have all of that stuff and to show it off to your friends, but you're never going to play any of it. Mister's just it's too easy. It's too convenient. And yeah, I'm really glad that he threw that in there in the video, that's kind of his preferred way to play. And he did, I didn't ask him to do it, but he threw in that frame by frame comparison between an MVS and a Mister, and they're like for like on the frames, and it's like, okay, why would you shell out all the money for all this stuff? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's cool. People our age walking into a room and seeing a big red MVS like that does something for you, but I think for the vast majority of people, that are younger than us, it probably wouldn't matter. I mean,
it's still really cool, but like the thing is, it is just so easy. So let me give you a little breakdown of what I had to do before. Even if everything was working in that machine, I would get my 4-slot and you'd power it on, and one of the games would always never start, and it would be like doing the Nintendo freaking NES cartridge jam times 1,000, because you're popping all this shit open from your cabinet trying to move it in and out. You're doing this, and sometimes it just doesn't want to power up right, and it's completely frustrating. And the Mister comes in, and the Mr. Kade comes in, and then probably these other types of things that are like the Mr. Kade. I haven't gotten to try anything else because I bought that a long time ago. I haven't needed like the second also alternative to the Mr. Kade that's the other arcade boards, but you get it in there and it works. You set it up. It's incredible. I've got it hardwired to my Ethernet, so it just I go in there. I've got what I did was, if you plug it in through the JAMA connector, and there's a JAMA adapter, you can go check out Joe's video for all that stuff if you're interested. You get that in there, and then I'm able to also include an HDMI monitor that I have mounted on the wall beside, that I can move in either Tate mode or 4x3 because it's on a swivel. And then I have an external
I've
pad,
seen that.
right?
Yeah.
And then I can also use a keyboard, and I could do any updates through the HDMI in it, because it disappears on the analog screen when I do an update. So it's now I never really get under there and start unless a USB device isn't working. That's it.
Right.
And before, it was just such a hassle. And you're always waiting for this gear to finally say it's done working for you.
So how many MVS carts do you have then?
I'll go get my little 4-stack. I'll show you.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, show and tell time. Here, I'll fill time. Here, I'll read. I'll see if there's any questions here from the chat. Wow, we got a lot of stuff going on in this chat.
All right. I don't really have
really no
much.
questions.
That's
what's great. What's great. Whenever you bring up Neo Geo, the chat always devolves in everybody just talking about their collection.
Yeah.
Always.
Right. Exactly.
Because people are like, because nobody actually wants to listen to this, but I'm now in a group, a fellowship of people that actually want to talk about this shit, so I got to get it off my chest.
Right. Yeah. Get it off your chest. Tell everybody. Tell the world in the chat how you do this. So
my wife doesn't want to hear about Magical Drop 2. Okay. So
right. So these are the two. I think I gave the other one to a guy for something to test. He was building me a console. I know. I'm sorry. It's a Fatal Fury 3 and a Neo Turf Masters.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then this is the other one, which I was telling you. The only other one, it's not even in English. It's the League Bowling, and you can see where it's got that daisy chain jack right there.
Yep.
So you could daisy chain the carts with another cart in another MVS machine and do like a big tournament if you wanted to. And then I have this lousy.
It's a multi-cart.
The old school 161. So I had all these. After a while, I bought that fancier, expensive Neo Geo cartridge for my MVS. And then I was just like, after I got the Mr., I was like, I'm just done with this stuff. And I sold that multi-cart, the good one. I think it was a Darksoft or something. I can't remember.
Oh, the Darksoft? Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So
Neo Alec chastised me. He's like, you didn't bring up Darksoft. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Really?
I didn't, but I brought up Terra Onion and I feel bad because there is Darksoft.
Or even the adapter, right? There are some aftermarket. Did you bring up that?
No, I brought up the adapter, but
forgot.
like very briefly.
That's fine.
And then somebody's.
What do you want? An hour? Do they want an hour?
All right. I gave you 37 minutes, people. What the?
Your next episode's going to be 2 hours, and your wife's going to strangle you. Say, your career is over, mister. You're going back to I was sending you to the judge.
Somebody told me somebody commented that the adapters don't even work for certain board revisions.
Okay.
On the board revision that takes the 5-volt power supply, the converter won't work, which I thought I never knew that. Never. I thought the converters were universal. It worked with every AES. So maybe somebody can tell me whether or not that's the case, or maybe this guy was just feeding me BS. But that. I was kind of blown away by it. So what I want to do, I did announce what my next trial will be at the end of the video. But I got 2 videos that I want to do before that, though. I want to do I'm going to call it On Appeal, where I basically just say, here's all the crap that I effed up in my last video. And then I get to read comments and ask questions and engage with the viewers and all that stuff. So
that's a good idea. I like it.
I mean, in the other video I want to do is I want to do just a gratitude video. Like I'm nobody, right? I have 500 freaking subscribers, but in just a month I've gotten this much positive feedback, and I'm just blown away by it. I cannot believe how much positive reinforcement I'm getting from the entire community. Everybody that's watched it, everybody has great things to say. And I think I'm getting so much engagement on the videos, just people commenting and liking and talking about it, that I'm getting fed through the algorithm. Like, you see the analytics, like what you're looking for is you want viewers to come through YouTube's recommendations. And I think like 43% of my views now are coming from the algorithm. So I'm blown away by that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for it. I'm just humbled by it. But so I want to do a cool video like that for just to say thank you to everybody. So but yeah, that's one thing I want to talk about is I'd like to do some sort of kind of like after show video where I just talk about some of these more important things that I forgot. Like I didn't talk about Darksoft. I didn't talk about
Neo Geo CDs.
I didn't talk about Neo Geo CD. Oh my god! From the Famicom video. Okay, the Famicom video. Guess what the number one thing is that everybody gave me shit about? Like, oh, I can't believe you didn't talk about this.
What?
Guess what it was?
No idea.
The freaking Sharp Twin Famicom.
Oh, well, see, that's like the boner for everybody who wants it.
Dude, Sharp Twin Famicom guy can't stop talking about the fucking Sharp Twin Famicom. He just can't. Like, he loves it so much. Yeah. And every Sharp Twin Famicom guy doesn't have just one Sharp Twin Famicom. They've got all the Sharp Twin Famicoms, all the different colors and all the variants. And it's like, I can't believe you didn't bring up the Sharp Twin Fam. I'm like, I wasn't talking about that. Like, the fuck? Anyway, sorry.
That's okay. Tangent. All right.
Tangent.
What about
my second glass?
What about Hyper? What is Hyper Neo Geo 64? Do you know what that is? My buddy Kenny Lauderdale is talking.
It's shit. It was the nail in the coffin for SNK is what it was. It was SNK saying, we got to do what Namco does. We got to do what Sega does. We need to do 3D. And they came out with this new hardware and it sucked. I would certainly say just emulate it. But there are weirdos out there who, have the board, they have the games, they want to play that on original hardware. somebody out there could probably tell me how many games there actually are in the Hyper Neo 64, but it's not many. I want to say it's maybe half a dozen.
So it's like one of those, real weird things then.
Super obscure, and none of the games are memorable. It's just not worth your time. Just emulate that bad boy, for sure.
Yeah, and then Kenny Lauderdale also asked about the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Now I do have one of those. I do have one of those, and I have a Neo Geo not Pocket Color, or not Color, just regular Pocket. And I actually like that. I mean, it's always satisfying, that clicky little sound. The clicky sounds on there, and
the fact that they migrated that to a handheld is the greatest thing on the planet. It's
pretty amazing how the fighting games are so good too, with just 2 buttons. Do you have a nice screen on yours? Is that an upgraded backlit screen?
Yeah, I had mine modded. It's a backlit LCD. My buddy Mobius Tech did it.
That's cool.
And it's you know what though, the who makes it? Retro HQ makes the flash cart for it, and that's a must buy. That's a must buy.
Which one do you have? Is it one that lets you play multiple games? Like how many games? Yeah, I got one that only. Gosh, I only got the one that I had when it was available. I bought it only lets me flash like 2 games onto it. It's a real pain. It's original one, but it's the Flash Master is the one I have.
Oh no. Well, you know what though? But I think this is what I have is the game drive.
Okay.
There we go.
Neo Pocket game drive. Okay.
Yeah, it's from Retro HQ.
Retro HQ. Yeah, that's better.
The guy, and I can't wait for his 7800 cart. I cannot wait for that thing.
Man, I am so pissed at myself. I sold my 7800 like 5 years ago because I used to come across Atari lots like nuts, like crazy. And ever since I sold the last one, I've never seen another one that's been like for sale. And it just drives me nuts like ever since then because... it's always great to have the 7800 because then you can at least test the 7800 games also, and the controller is better.
2600.
Right, and you play 2600.
You know what's so great about the 7800 game drive that he has coming out? It's like the RGB blaster on the Famicom. It's like Crix's RGB blaster. But what's cool about it? It's got a DIN connector on the back. So because the 7800 is one of the few consoles out there where there's just not an RGB modification available for it. The best you've ever been able to do so far is just S-Video. So now you actually have RGB, which is
that's
awesome.
Kind of cool. It's not really that necessary on something like that.
No, it's not. Especially if you're playing on a CRT.
Yeah, it's like the difference between RGB. What are you doing over there? You got a big bright light coming up on your face.
What do you think? I'm masturbating here? Right. So, no, I was showing you.
You got the cart loaded.
I'm showing you that I'm a big hot dog and not a little weenie. So on this one, you load up your SD card, and on your SD card, you can. I just fucked it up. You load up all the games on the SD card, but you have to flash the game into memory. And for this one, you can only flash, 2 or 3 games into memory. So it's pretty similar to what you have. But I don't know, it just loads up really quick. I got Metal Slug going. It's great. It's I love. I mean, this can, and people they'll play it and they'll like instantly they'll want to compare it to the Game Boy Advance, but I mean compare it to the Game Boy Color, which is around the same time.
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, that's a little stretch. The Game Boy Advance had a lot more going for it than the Neo Geo Pocket was, but it's still I think it's a cool handheld. It's one that I've got that literally sits on like a display. It even has a little Neo Geo like thing. It just sits in there.
Nice.
Never play it. I actually went through recently and loaded some new games and just played it for a couple minutes. And but there's just so many different other things to do after a minute. You're like, okay, cool, fun. Glad it still works. Right. Put it back.
Yeah. Yeah, that and that's the problem I think with flashcards too. Is you feel your tolerance for getting bored is so much lower because you're just like, okay, I'm not going to stick with this. I'll just go to the next game. And whereas if you only had like 4 games, you would just play those 4 games, and that's. But the library on the Neo Geo Pocket is awesome. It's really good.
Yeah, well, Kenny Lauderdale did bring up a good point. I actually forgot about this. I saw it when I turned it on without a cartridge in it. The Neo Geo Pocket Color does have a built-in horoscope, and it predicts the future.
Yeah, it does.
And I put my card in, or I've turned it on, and it was the right date, like still the right date.
Yeah.
So, it was an awesome. It had some really cool stuff in it for that '90s handheld. I don't consider it a failure really or anything. If some people would say that. I like it over a Game Gear.
Oh God. A Game Gear. Like if you don't have your Game Gear modified, you can't play the damn thing. I don't know how we played it back in like 93, 94.
Yeah.
You got Horoscope, you got your calendar. You could have it's like a little PDA. You could set your world clock, you could set an alarm. It's telling me oh no, I forgot to put this on daylight savings, but I don't know. I love it. I love this thing.
So I had a good story about my MVS. After I got it back, I could only keep it in my garage. And if you go back and watch some of I think YouTube used to have a search by like the oldest date of video. I don't think it does that anymore, so it's probably harder to find. But the earlier stuff, you could see me actually show myself going and getting this machine and bringing it back. But I invited my friend over, who I was telling you that we used to talk and joke about the MVS. I was like, dude, you've got to come over. I finally got an MVS and the games, and we could play it in the garage.
Was this the guy you blew the transformer with?
Yes. So.
Oh, is this the story? I didn't ruin the story.
Yeah, you just ruined it, you jerk. No. So that's what we did. Yeah, we were in there.
You're in reruns right now, man. What are you doing?
That's what I was just telling you. Yeah. Well, that was a Neo Geo story.
Well, tell the story again. Maybe some of this audience didn't see it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You did it. No, so I invited him over. We played some games. And I also had like 5 other CRTs running, just showing off stuff with games for the kids. And they were just playing. And we got another super chat from Dan B. The Majesco made Game Gears. They have better
the Majescos.
screens.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that, but in a second. Anyway, the long story short, we started playing. So much power was going. It sounded. We started hearing this sound outside the garage that was just like a loud bang, like a pin hammer against a big panel of steel, like vibrating, wing, wing. And I was like, I don't know what the hell that noise is. And I'm like, we better shut all this stuff up. It sounds like it's coming from the power pole. And literally, as we were watching it, they just boom, a big hole blew out the side of it. 4 of my neighbors come running outside saying, "What happened? We lost power." And
Neo Geo happened.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
It's just too much. That's what I'm saying. The first time we got together with the Neo Geo, we literally blew up my street power transformer because of the mega power is so badass.
Of course. That's a Gigashock is what that is. It's the Gigashock.
So let's go back. What do you know about the Majesco screens?
I don't know anything. I know that the Majesco
is that a reproduction screen?
No, it's so Sega
okay. It's one of like the magnifiers or something?
No, so Sega started licensing out all of its hardware to third parties in like the mid 90s, like right around the end of that console generation, like right before the Saturn was released, and Majesco was one of the parties that acquired a license, and they started to make their own Sega hardware. That's where you started seeing the JVC variant of like the what do you call it, the Wonder Mega.
Yes.
That's where you start seeing all of that kind of stuff. And Majesco made their version of a Game Gear. And yeah, Dan B he brought up something that I have read before in the past. I've never actually seen a Majesco made Game Gear that had a better screen, but I mean, but yeah, those original Game Gears with just the like that first gen color LCD. I mean, you had to tilt that in just the right way. You had to have it the brightness set just at the right way. You need to have just the right amount of room lighting just to make it look visible. Otherwise, I mean, the ghosting was still so bad on those screens. I don't know how we. And again, it just shows like Nintendo is a successful company because they get the most out of so little. And
exactly. They've always been the best at
always. Like the last time I recall that, I mean, it's been since the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo was the last time Nintendo developed something where I want to have the best hardware available on the market when I put it out. Since then, it's been how could I get more out of less? And the Game Boy was like a microcosm of that. It's I want to make a compact console with just focusing on battery life, focusing on gameplay, a software library. And yeah, it wasn't in color. It was pea green, but you could see it. You could see it. You just sit under a lamp and it looks fine. But the Game Gear, you respect what Sega was trying to do. They were trying to do a full color LCD, and the 6 batteries lasted 15 minutes, and you couldn't see the damn thing. So, anyways,
but the Game Gear though, the thing I remember too was, everybody had a Game Boy because it was extremely affordable back then, and a reasonable option portably, right?
Right.
And they would have games, tons of games. And I remember you could even go get new games for decent prices. Like even if you got a $20 bill, you could go get some game for your Game Boy.
Absolutely.
In the Walmart or the Kmart or whatever mart. And that ability, then I felt like, I can't remember the MSRP on the Game Gear, but I felt like it was so much more that it was harder sometimes for like, it was a lot easier for people to jump on board and get their kids that Game Boy for a long time, just because the cost was so low. I mean, I don't know.
I want to say the Game Gear was like $149.
Yeah,
and the Game Boy was like $80.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and then you had the Lynx, which was like $200.
And then the Turbo. Someone else mentioned the Turbo Express, which it actually looks awesome. That's actually a great handheld too. But there was, I mean, like, again, that was another thing where you met one kid who had it. Like I met one kid who had all the TurboGrafx stuff and was really into it, and that was it. And he was like the only one, like in the school.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, you ever go, I love these posts when these people post these, these old Toys R Us ads or these old Sears catalog ads, and you see what NEC was doing with the TurboGrafx 16, like by 1994, like they'd already waved the white flag. They're like, this thing's a flop. And you could get that. You can get a TurboGrafx 16 or a Turbo Duo for like $100, and it would come with like 6 games, you know. And all of these games now are worth $150 a piece.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess back then there was a period of time if you had a TurboGrafx 16, it's like, oh, your family's broke. I get it. Okay, that's cool. But now it's like, highfalutin retro gaming caviar, right? It's really the stuff you need to get. I don't know. I didn't know anybody growing up that had a TurboGrafx 16. I didn't. You were either a Sega house or a Nintendo house. That was
pretty much the majority of it. What? I mean, there's a whole generation of things. I really remember vividly, like PlayStation coming out, because that was such a big deal. And the age group for me too was when the first PlayStation was coming out. I think I probably we talked about rented consoles. I probably rented that one. Gosh,
I did
10 times or something, like before I could afford one. Because it was like $300 when it came out.
Yeah. $299 was a real famous E3 presentation.
Speaking of E3, right? Didn't they just die this week?
Yeah, pour one out for E3, man.
There you go.
Pour one out for E3.
Salute on
to
two
E3.
cameras.
Yeah, that's now we've got this. I don't like. Here's. I wish I had the magazine out. I'm gonna bring it up in a video. To me, the gaming was at its peak. I had a GamePro magazine, and it was called The Big Bang, and it was the E3. It was the E3 issue of GamePro, and it was thick. It was Steve. It was the size of a phone book. It talked about PlayStation, Saturn, Ultra 64, Sega Genesis, Sega CD, Sega 32X, Atari Jaguar CD, Neo Geo CD, Game Gear, Game Boy. I mean, everything. There were like 19 different platforms at the time that developers were all publishing games for, all at the same time, and like you'd go to E3 and it would just be like you'd be overwhelmed with all the different options available to you. And gaming now is, I've been railing about this on Twitter forever. Like the games are too big, they're too expensive. We have so few options now anymore. GameStop. Kotaku just gave GameStop shit because they said in an investor call that the reason our sales are sagging is because there's not enough games to sell. I think they're right. Like there's just not enough physical game. You know, like only the AAA games or the AA games go physical, but there's just not enough of those games to play anymore. It's just there's just not many games. There's and if you look at all the like if you go on the Switch, they'll go, oh, we have several thousand games to play. But if you actually scratch, go underneath the surface and you look at all the games in their digital storefront, they're all crap. It's all shovelware. There's just not enough good games out there. Whereas you look 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there's like hundreds of games on all these different platforms that are all being made. It's just a shame to see E3, it's done. And there's no way it comes back from this, right?
It's not. It doesn't have a feeling like there would be any legitimate reason for it to come back unless it was some kind of, I don't know, grassroots movement or something. But also, you never underestimate stuff. If some of gets bought up or something by somebody who actually wants to do something that people want to see with it, then I feel like they could take that name and bring back and get, you know what I mean? It's like, there's still some value there because now if it's gone away and somebody who actually wants to do something with it and put on a good show, but again, it's got to be about a good show. And I feel like at the same time, like you said, there needs to be this obvious point where these shows aren't always too about kissing ass. And I think people maybe don't understand that, but that's the reason nobody gives two shits about the award shows anymore, except for the Ricky Gervais one, because nobody cares about ass kissing anymore, and nobody cares to watch it. And like that's what like our grandparents were into, is watching some schmuck they really enjoyed, like John Wayne, get on stage and kiss everyone's ass. Right? That's, but that's not what people want anymore.
There was a. I don't know when it happened per se, but there was a definitive shift with E3 where it became less of a hands-on exhibition of product for the consumer, and it turned more into like a shareholders meeting. Where we're gonna have, here's this VP of something or another. He's gonna come out and he's gonna wear some suit that makes him look cool. And he's going to talk about all of the new features of this graphical user interface of this new system. And it's like, and then the crowd goes crazy because it's like, yeah, it's Microsoft, or yeah, it's Sega, or yeah, it's Sony. But what made E3 great was going there and they had the booth girls and they had the games and they had the big fucking animatronic T-Rexes and they had all that stuff. And that's, I feel like, at some point, maybe like the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 era, that ended, and it just became a sales pitch. And now, since E3 morphed into that, that's where now you have like what's his name, the Jeff Knightley or whatever, the guy who does the video game awards. Like he just basically absorbed all that with the video game awards, and now he hosts like it basically just turns into trailers on YouTube. Like there's nothing different from what he does and just watching trailers on YouTube, and you lose the connection between the consumer and these companies that they generate excitement about video games. Like I don't know about you, Steve, but nothing excites me about modern gaming anymore. And maybe I'm just an old man that's just yelling at a cloud.
Oh, yeah, you're just an old man. I mean, what would you imagine? What would you imagine that would excite me about any kind of modern video game now?
Yeah, but does anything excite you? Like, I don't know. Like,
does anything excite me? Yes.
No. Like, does anything about modern gaming excite you now? Like, nothing really does.
I'll be honest, like over the last couple years, like you mentioned, there's a disconnect where these games are so in depth. You can't. That's why retro games are always going to be a thing. You can get in, get a quick hit of nostalgia, and then like go back to reality. But I would always feel like with these big production games, it's like a season.
Nice. I'm listening.
Yeah, it's like a season. It's like committing to binge watching a season of The Sopranos or something. It's like you're going to put in so many hours to get through just the cinematics and getting your character set up and figuring the game out. And then it seems like the genre of these games is a little bit repetitive, right? It's like I went through today and was checking out shows on TV, and everybody now has a show about greedy money launderers, right? It's like all of a sudden there was never a show about money laundering, and now every other show is about money launderers, and they're all stressed out. And I was laughing. I was like, whatever happened? I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but there must be absolutely no interest in just having boring family, show anymore or something. It's all, it's got to be like corporate espionage, backstabbing, murder, everything.
Corporate espionage is the open world game now. It's like everybody's got one, You got to have 15 million side quests and
so modern gaming is a mess. Like, right, there's so many. I don't know. I can't think of a single. I used to actually like and enjoy sports games, like Madden, football games, just like that back in the early teen 2000s and years up to that. But even that's gotten terrible. And
there's no competition anymore.
That's right. There's no competition for Madden.
You want
so every year,
game,
the
Madden.
next game is just crap. So it doesn't. You can go back and play the old games, but again, there's no the modern games. It just does. There's no. I don't know who connects to them so much. I feel like sometimes I'll watch a trailer and maybe I'll play that game, and I'm like, woof, that even just watching the trailer for that game was so exhausting. I'd rather just go back and, like you say, play Metal Slug.
The only modern game, number one, I don't have time for them, but number two, the only game that's come out recently that I've looked at and I've been like, fuck, I really need to play that game is Elden Ring. Like, that looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I've not been a big From Software person. Like, I haven't played any of the Demon Souls or Dark Souls games, but I just look at that game and I'm like, yeah, that feels like, or at least it looks like an old NES game to me, like where, it's open yet linear, it's difficult but not unforgiving, and you've got to work at it. That seems like a really interesting game. The last game I really got into, I think, was I got into Cyberpunk a little bit when that first came out. I thought that was a pretty neat narrative. I think it was a missed opportunity as far as the story development went, and just kind of like the whole open world and how immersive it was. I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. But before that was Control. I don't know if you ever played Control.
I did play Control. That was like one of the last ones. But again, I played it for like 5 hours.
That to me was a masterpiece.
That was a good game. But the problem was, again, I would get through the night like, golly, man, I'm so far into this game, I can't keep going. I don't know. It's like almost a war of attrition, and it finally makes me tap out as like the old man I am. Like
but there's games that do that. They just overstay their welcome. Like, and I can appreciate them for what they are. Like playing Spider-Man, the Spider-Man game.
Oh, is that like on the new PlayStation one?
Yeah, like I played that, and I appreciated it for what it was. Like it was. I'm like, I'm fucking Spider-Man right now. Like, this is crazy. Like, it looks beautiful. And the combat was fun, and the story missions were fun. But after about like 20 hours, you're just like, are you going to end?
Yeah.
Are you just overstayed your welcome. I'm good. Like, I'm good with $60 in 20 hours.
I don't think that I feel like people think that they're going to get shit on if they're going to make a game and it's only got 20 hours of content, even if it's great. Which is ridiculous.
Give me the 10-hour game.
But there's got to be, if it's got to be good, it's got to have some replay kind of ability probably to be there. But I'll tell you a game that I thought of one that I did like that came out within the last year, and it was the Shredder's Revenge.
Oh yeah. Well, but is that a modern game?
Right. That's more of a that's more of a playing off our retro nostalgia.
Yeah.
It's just
I think that's an indictment really on modern gaming as a whole, is that you look at a game like Shredder's Revenge, and this isn't in any way not to disrespect any of the programmers or developers that were on that game. I've played it. I played it with my son. He loves it.
Yeah.
But it takes a game like that is not pushing any boundaries graphically or anything like that. But that game was a massive hit last year. And the reason it was is because it was so unlike all of the games that we have been subjected to in the last 10 years.
Well, and how many games have been out that are like a remaster or like the master edition of I feel like it's a regurgitation of the same game over and over and over again too.
What Sony did with The Last of Us, like that was laughable. It's just I don't get it. Like, okay, I've played this game twice already. You're gonna re-release it again?
Yeah.
Like, here's an idea. Come up with something new. But I think I don't think that problem, Steve, is I don't think it's exclusive to video games. I think that's a problem with just media in general.
Yeah, I think you're sure.
It's just look at the movie industry, look at the music industry, look at the television. Like you just said, everybody has to have some sort of corporate espionage, white collar crime thriller show, right? Everybody wants to do the safe thing, and the safe thing is let's get this little girl. Let's get this little girl away from the zombies again for the 8th time. Like it's just,
right. I mean, it's disappointing. But the funny thing is we're talking about a system that regurgitated the fighting game. I mean, King of Fighters.
Wait a minute. Okay, I'm about to throw you out of the club. Okay, wait a minute. It wasn't regurgitating the fighting game because at the time the fighting game was king at that time. And every year SNK was saying, we're going to give you the best fighting game available in the market every single year. Here's a new roster. Here's a new gameplay mechanic. Here's some new soundtrack. Here's a new background. Here's this. Here's the new development in the story. And man, I don't know if you've actually sat through and played through all the King of Fighters, but like you get an appreciation. Like every game does feel different. Like you would think it really, people are going to think I'm crazy, but like if you play Madden, Madden 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, it's all the same game. They may add a little thing, but King of Fighters, if you play King of Fighters 94 and King of Fighters 98, those are two completely different games. Like, even though it's the same characters, they feel so different. If you play King of Fighters 97 and 98, they're two completely different games. They feel so different. SNK at that time was really on top of their game.
They definitely weren't doing the Madden thing where it's just like, we're just strapping a new year on it.
Just mailing it in,
And mailing it in. This was about taking Which, I mean, like you say, a lot of this sometimes it's like, are we going to take pride in what we do? And then we're kind of talking about the good games being these not really new releases. That's the same thing as like, oh, well, I liked the movie and it was the movie that was the remake of a movie I liked 30 years ago, right? Because that's a popular thing also. Like you said, with media, we're just not getting, there's so much of it and there's so much call for like quantity over really great quality, right? Right. It's like we need to have a platform that already has a library built and needs to have endless amounts of entertainment, but it's never like great entertainment. Right. There's not like amazing moments you're feeling usually.
Alec in the chat just brought up a good point. He said King of Fighters didn't even skip years during its bankruptcy, and that's true.
Wow.
That's true. We're going through financial turmoil here. We're looking for a buyer, but goddamn it, we still got to put out a King of Fighters. We have to. It is manifest destiny. We need that King of Fighters.
You know, people were fighting to get on the King of Fighters team back in the SNK.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, ultimate job security King of Fighters. Yeah. They're like, oh, Mom, I made it to the King of Fighters. They're like, yeah. My boy
it's the best series. It was. It's the best. It's the series I still go back to the most.
When I go to, which we can kind of joke about this if you want to, or we can just skip it. But when I go to party, or only the one time I partied in Brooklyn with the guys that have the arcade there in New York.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn Games. I'd love to go there sometime.
Yeah, they should. They, that's what they're playing mostly is King of Fighters and stuff and different things like that. And so it's fun to go in there and play. But, dude, this guy's like, I get my ass whipped. And if I do like 5, my forearms are on fire after like 5 matches, like.
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't.
I even know what I'm doing a little bit, and I just can't. It's like I am no way near as fast as this stuff. So, kudos to anybody that's like amazing at that. But
you just reminded me. You didn't. We haven't talked about the thing that we talked about before.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. So yeah, like that's what I was laughing about. You posted something about. I started thinking about Lewis being able to party and stuff, and his like, I couldn't believe he sent you that message either, because he sent me a message like that earlier.
He was so paranoid about it
in the week, but then I thought, he probably doesn't care if the man posts a picture to your Twitter timeline of himself.
That's true. What the fuck was that?
And a leopard thong with like his ladies around him,
like just blazed out of his mind.
And he's like, "Do you think I looked messed up on this stream the other day?" And it was just like, oh my gosh, Lewis.
Let's give the audience some context.
Yeah, let's give anybody who's here, you get the exclusive 1 hour and 20 minutes. You made it in, and you can get the funny stories here. Okay.
I'm 4 drinks in. Yeah. So here we go. Now we're going to talk about it. I start my day Wednesday with a direct message from Lewis, who just had a live stream with Steve the previous day. And he says, "Oh, should I quote it? I should probably quote it.
You should quote it.
I should quote it because it is funny
in your Australian accent."
Yeah, he's so fucking paranoid. He's gonna give me shit about this, but
he should. Yeah.
He's gonna say, he says, "Hey man, do you think Steve and I were too high on the live stream? We had both been smoking pot, and for sure we were affected. I think streams are not a big issue." But we both smoked again before we talked to Robert Dale Smith yesterday, and I could feel I wasn't as present and I was not as structured, even though I had done prep. And this is by the way, this is at 6:04 a.m. All right, so I'm on the shitter and I'm reading this, and I read this and I go, yeah, man. Normally you're an excellent traffic cop on your pods. But, man, on that last pod, you just let Steve cook for 25 straight minutes. I could tell something was off. And you, by the way, you were in the middle of talking about the drama in Florida, about the fucking ex-cop and the... I mean, like, you were rolling.
Oh, yeah. I was like, you can sit back and let me tell this Florida story.
It was like it was the meme of, hold on, let him cook. Like, it was that thing.
Oh, I knew that was going to go on. That was a long story.
Oh, you were going. And Lewis, I could just tell. Like I'm looking at Lewis, and Lewis, like I give Lewis credit. Lewis is an excellent traffic cop. Like when I say
he's
traffic
the
cop,
best.
I mean he's a guy that's like, okay, we're done with this topic. Let's talk about this topic. And he knows how to segue and weave in and out. He does a really good job of that. And he, you could tell he does that for a living, like in his actual profession. But for this live stream that he was talking about, that he was so paranoid about, like he lost all control of Steve. Like Steve was just off to the races.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'm not going to. All right. This is kind of funny, right? So I'm not. I mean, it's no big surprise, big deal. In my state where I live in the United States, you're allowed to smoke recreational marijuana if you want to.
Legal here too. Yeah. No
So,
big deal.
like, to me, it doesn't really matter. And I do smoke sometimes. And like, but like I will see some people and they just have stoned face, right? Like you see them, like, I mean, I've got a brother-in-law like this. He's been smoking fucking weed for 35 years, but he's still, I don't understand it. I'm like, dude, you've been smoking forever. How do you still get that fucking stoned baloney face? Like where you see a guy and you're like, oh shit, that guy just got baked. Well, I could tell I could see that a little bit of Lewis sometimes, like not as bad, but still funny. Right. And I could tell it. So I'm like, I'll just calm him down. I'll tell him I smoke too. And it doesn't matter. And like calm him down. And then for the Robert Dale Smith interview, which
I can't wait to see this. Was this a train wreck? Was it a train wreck?
I mean, well, Robert's a great guy, but like
Lewis,
hey, look, Lewis showed up, like, boom, like we're like, this is the time, and I'm talking to Robert. Lewis shows up. He looked like a freaking mad scientist. His hair was. His hair was sticking out straight. His beard was out, and he had stoned face. And I'm like, Stony baloney, my goodness. And I just started laughing. I was like, great, now I'm gonna have to go. And what you said, try to be the lead on
the
here. And
I'm
not good at that. And so Lewis was like, yes, he didn't get to talk as much. And I was like, yeah. Because I was afraid. I was like, I don't know what he's gonna do. He looked like he had just like been
just rolled out of bed.
Yeah, well, not like he had slept in like 3 days or something. He looked crazy. Hopefully, he doesn't get super pissed at us for saying all this stuff. But we
probably will.
I'm
sorry, Lewis. I'm sorry, Lewis.
Yeah, we love you. Like it was just super funny because like the stream, he was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, dude, you just relax, man. We're just here, chatting, having fun. It's like you don't, you're not performing brain surgery.
Well, but you guys were doing brain surgery with John Linneman. When John Linneman shows up, you guys are straight and narrow.
Well, that's what I was trying to. I was trying to keep Lewis in good spirits by that because I was like, well. It's like it's easier with John because we already had 3 or 4 topics. I've spoken to John a bunch before this. So It's like it's hard to interviewing on podcasts and stuff is fun, but it does generally take, you take some time to build a rapport with somebody and try to do that quickly and make a show where you're asking questions. There's a lot.
What do you guys,
Go ahead.
What are you guys publishing that Robert Dale Smith?
I'm sure it's going to be coming early next week, probably Monday, Tuesday is when he usually.
I like Robert. He's a good dude.
Yeah, it was good to talk to him. I invited him on the show like 6 months ago before he had his baby, and so much stuff has happened between now and then, and we finally got him on there. But
that's cool.
It's probably a good thing because he's done so much more in the last 6 months. Then
has he though? Has he? He just did that. He did that Nuon thing that like 4 people are happy about.
That's what we were laughing with him, telling him how his like Nuon projects. That's just one of those things you're doing, and you're never going to make a cent off of. You're just hoping.
No, that is a passion project.
Yeah, you're hoping that some alien life force comes back 5,000 years from now, and somehow the Nuon's the only thing that can like save this society. And thanks to Robert's controller work, they can get it to do the Tempest 3000 trick to save their world. I don't know.
Oh man, Robert made my dream come true. He gave
Now,
me
see, I
wireless
talked
PC
about,
engine.
that's what I was going to say. Because I thought this was like before you and I had talked a little bit. Didn't you give him, were you the one giving him the hard time about trying to do that?
I wasn't giving him a hard time. I wasn't giving him a hard time.
No.
All I did was I threw it out in the ether. I just said, like, 8BitDo's made a wireless receiver for the Genesis, for the NES, for the SNES. Why don't we have one for the PC Engine TurboGrafx 16? Like, we should have one. And Robert was a big PC Engine guy, and he's like, I could make that. And I was like, really? You could do that? And he was kind of like, yeah, I'll do something about it. Retro Frog was kind of like saying, yeah, I could do. He had a workaround where he could do the NES adapter into the PC Engine. And I was like, wow, dude, if you could do that, that'd be awesome. Because I'd play PC Engine with an NES controller. It's fine. Well, we have to figure out the turbo function, but we'll do it. And but Robert was like, no, fuck it. I'll figure out a way to do it. And I think in about 6 months he did it. And he sent me a tester. He's like, tell me what you think. Like, you kind of, you got me inspired to do this, and it worked flawlessly. Like, it worked really, really great. But I was fucking around on Twitter with like 12 other guys, and we were just writing 8BitDo every day. Like, give us a dongle, give us a dongle, give us a dongle. And I got 8BitDo to actually write me back, and they're like, hey, trust me, we're seeing your tweets, we know about it, we're working on it. And but that was a year ago, and nothing's happened. So, but Robert, filled a hole in the market.
It sounds.
Did you ask him about it?
Yeah. We talked about this.
Did he sell a lot of it?
Yeah, he's closing. Actually, it's funny we should say that, because I think that if anybody wants to get one, he has like pre-order emails right now, or pre-orders where you buy them, and he's got an order of 500. He's about to fulfill. Of a second order of 500 of the PCE to USB adapters, and we talked a lot about it. Basically, he's got the idea to kind of use this. I think it has to do with the Nuon stuff he did, where he can use that on a bunch of other consoles. Hopefully, he said that he can hopefully. What he wants to do now is do things like redesign. He doesn't want to do, or it sounds to me like it would be better for him to not have to do the 3DO to SNES adapter anymore. Okay. He would great. Yeah, but he said it's just too much work to put it together. So he would prefer to have the that to be USB also instead of SNES. He's like, it works much better. It's easier to put together, and you can do so much more, because if you think about a 3DO, it's like you can plug in, then you can start plugging in things like just a USB dock, and then plug in as many controllers as you want and get all those daisy chain features that were in those games, where you could play like 8-player Bomberman or something. But it was a good conversation. But Lewis was definitely
Lewis was baked out of his mind.
Lewis looked like he was on vacation. Like, Lewis was, he I love it. I'll Lewis and I, but we've been on a good little roll here. But right before that, he went on a vacation. Man, he went to like Thailand or something.
Yeah, Thailand. And I went to Japan.
Yeah,
he went to Japan. Then he was back for like a week, and then he went to Thailand.
Right.
With his girlfriend.
The Thailand trip, I'm just getting pictures of like Muay Thai boxing and like this grungy armpit of a fighting hall, and it's him, just drinking beer, looking like he's having a blast, and it's so interesting that you could sit here. And
you could see the humidity in those pictures.
That's what I was saying. You could see him just like, like just sweating, looking crazy. Yeah, so CDI pad, CDI. Yeah, I think that he might be coming up with a CDI thing.
That'd be cool.
Someday. I don't know, Robert, that is, but he said that the most, I had to laugh a lot about his more recent project where he made the Fisher Price controllers. You
Blew
see
my
those?
mind. That blew my mind.
Yeah, he showed those off some.
He's a talented dude. Because I mean I've seen that. I got young kids, so
Yeah.
I go through the baby toy aisle. I've seen that pad, and what's cool? Did he tell you about that pad? Like if you actually put in the Konami code with that pad, it'll do like a special jingle. It has like a little Easter egg built into the software.
No, he didn't tell me
on the
that.
pad.
So
Yeah,
it
so
does that without like
no modifications.
no modification.
Nothing. Yeah, if you were to find it at Target and take it off the rack and just do the Konami code, it'll play like a little jingle because it recognizes that you're an OG and you know the Konami code.
You picked it up, and yeah, you'll probably buy it now just to show your friends. It's like, oh, this will sell this to some middle-aged man so he can show his buddy that he found.
Right. You'll give it to your 4-year-old and be like, "This is stupid. Like, why? Why? What are you gonna do?"
Yeah, that was a lot of fun talking to him, and we got into a great discussion once we got kind of warmed up with him, where he has been diving a lot into the AI chat. Like,
oh yeah,
AI, and not only that, like he's using it to build him code, plugins, like all kinds of stuff, like teaching it. He said it's like a teaching thing, but we had a good discussion with him about that. That was a lot of fun, and how maybe the future of this is I feel like it's going to be something more of like a personal assistant, right? Where like you've got this amazing personal assistant that does all this extensive work that would take you hours to put together. I mean, you could imagine in your profession, I could even think about in CRT repair, imagine if this AI was able to go back and watch instantly every single repair video on the internet about a CRT and give you a possible troubleshooting. Well, so, and that it was good. I think it has to learn that.
Right.
That's what Robert was kind of thinking, telling me that you have to kind of teach it almost to look at it a certain way. But you can see how maybe the future would be that the AI is going to be more of like a personal assistant style help.
Yeah, like if you like you brought in, let's say you bring into your shop like like your L2 there. I've got a 14 L2. How do I replace the flyback on that? You type that in. How do I replace the flyback on a PVM 14L2? And there it is with the schematics and all that stuff, and it tells you exactly how to do it, step by step. That'd be pretty cool.
Well,
and it's
or even
it's
more
downloading.
than that, like teaching itself how to, like, if you're saying, well, mine doesn't power on, what should I check? And it's like it starts giving you a flow chart of things from the internet to check, almost. Yeah.
I mean, it's scary. Like I signed up for it and played around with it for a little bit, and I said I had a document up at the time that I was working on, and I just said, okay, let's see how it does with what I'm working on. So I put write a dispositive motion on rescission of a contract based on material misrepresentation. And boop, it just gave me, here's the standard, here's the majority rule in most jurisdictions, here's all the elements of material misrepresentation and fraud, and this is how you can void a contract. And I'm like, this AI is smarter than, most new lawyers that walk in that
and quick.
Within a minute I've got an answer. So that was kind of scary, but yeah, it was still wrong.
Right. That's what he said. A lot of it wasn't, it comes back and sometimes it's just not right now.
No, I think, but it's funny because I talked to Mike G about this, and he talks about just coding. And he's kind of blown away by how well it codes in certain applications. It can code really, really well. And yeah, I would think for that, that labor market, they're probably a little freaked out by that. You know, you do CRT repair, you got job security, man.
Well, I guess,
you know,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got job security, I think, but I think for a lot of guys that do most of their work in coding, I don't know, maybe they got something to worry about. I don't know, but it's.
I think that, yeah, if it's something that's been replaceable, but from also the point of view from someone who has to rely on or needs to do some of those lower end tasks, I wouldn't say, but it's like necessary work. Eventually, I think it's going to get to where that AI gets better at what it's doing because it's so new right now, and they're already telling, people are already sounding the alarm on the stuff, trying to scare people. And nobody knows, right, what it's going to be like. There's so much, the Terminator,
Right.
So
what did you think? Speaking of AI, what did you think of that AI artwork that I made where I tagged you and you were
I looked like, who I looked like in that picture? The guy.
You look like Don Knotts.
I was going to say, no, that was like the guy in Florida who got his ass whipped. That was like, that guy looked exactly like the cop who got his ass whipped from Chicago. Right. And that, God, my wife was getting kind of tired of me bringing it up because I'd be like, hey, did you talk to your mom today? All last 2 weeks. Did you talk to your mom today? She's like, yeah. What? Or yeah. Did she mention anything about, that fight? Did she say anything else happened? She's like, no, she's not even there in Florida anymore. She left a day after us. So no, she doesn't know. Stop. So I'm like getting on her nerves asking about it. So I wanted to know. I'm like, man, what happened? That damn condo.
What's Doob saying? Doob's saying he's a software dev. It makes his life easier. It's nice to ask a specific question instead of spending hours on Google. Yeah, I think, and get usable code. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, as long as you're looking at it from the perspective of it's a compliment rather than a full-on replacement, then there's some good to it. But as long as it makes you more efficient, it saves time, then I'm all for it. But
that score a double eagle. No,
I never have. I never heard her. I've heard her say birdie, but that's about it. I've never heard her say eagle. I'm not very good at that. I don't
know if I've gotten a double eagle. I mean, I know I've gotten eagles, but I don't know. Maybe that you have to hit one in from the out.
Oh, you got to hit one out from 200 yards.
I don't know if I've ever. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about with that stuff. And Robert said that ChatGPT was not as good as he said. He was getting more usable stuff out of the Bing. He said the Bing version, because
really?
Yeah, because it's actually tied to the internet. So it pulls from data from all over the internet, and it pulls
Microsoft Cloud services or whatever.
I'm not sure. Yeah, like I said I had never really used it. It was funny. He said, oh, the first thing I did was I got on there and I asked it every conspiracy theory question I could think of. And then Lewis is like,
Robert's from Texas. Of course he did.
Right.
Yeah,
I was like, Lewis was like, oh, Steve, what are you going to do? He's like, well, now I'm going to go ask it every conspiracy theory, and I'm probably never going to leave my bunker again. Thanks. I'll never leave this concrete bunker again now. Thank you. So, that's a good comparison though. You talked about the picture you tagged me, and it shows up with like, it's like a freak with 7 fingers,
right?
And it's so
and
funny.
The CRT is like the most.
How do they come up with like? How does it generate this? And then it's like, oh, we're gonna add 4 fingers. Why the fuck does it add more fingers? Like that doesn't make sense to me.
And that's the thing. It's like such like painstaking detail to like your facial features, and all I typed in was CRT television repairman from the southern United States. That's what I typed in, and that's what came out. And yeah, like the detail to his face and his clothing, and the CRT kind of looked like a something from like the early 80s, but like from Russia. Like it just looked like from some
it did.
It just looked off. And it was so plausible, and then you get down to the guy's hands, down to the bottom, and he's got fucking 9 fingers. Like you ran the ball 99 yards, like, and you got
it's like
at the one.
It looks like they all did look like the CCAM TVs that Lewis will find from the Soviet Union.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
That's what they looked like. So it'll be interesting. I kind of do feel we often talk about what's that next big thing. And I feel like this AI thing here has the potential to be one of those next big technologies that impacts people. Imagine if it did perfect things where you could literally ask it complex things and it can do a lot of these tasks efficiently. And I feel like it's going to be like that 5 years from now. Everybody will have a new device, or it'll be integrated into the newest smartphone where, what the hell are you going to do then? I mean, I feel like then what are we going to do? I feel like the next thing needs to be like holograms, 3D modeling kind of projection out of your phone or something, right? Where you could get a 3D image of something.
I don't know. I have a like a disaster mindset when it comes to AI. Like I think of you think of Skynet, Terminator, all that stuff. That's like the easy thing to think of. But I think of I really think of WALL-E. If you've ever watched the Disney movie WALL-E, the Pixar movie. Like where we're all just fat and lazy and AI just gives us everything and we don't know how to function on our own anymore. Like we just have no idea. And we just, we're just floating around on our big, Barca loungers. That's, that's all we do. We just exist for the sake of existing because AI essentially rules everything. I mean, I was freaked out by AI like 15 years. Whenever, remember when IBM had Watson and Watson played Ken Jennings on Jeopardy?
Yeah.
And wiped the floor with him. I mean, wiped the floor with him. At that point, I was just like, this ain't good. Like, it's not, I don't subscribe to this at all. Like, this is the beginning of the end. I just, you have that and you have the the deep fakes with
my goodness. We're
like
just
that.
we're just at the beginning of all that.
We're just at the beginning.
Like video all of a sudden, video evidence like now means nothing. Almost. Yeah, like there's true good arguments for somebody saying that that's not me. Somebody used the AI of talented something to recreate me.
Right. Like Disney was touting like, oh, well, Carrie Fisher's dead, but we still finished all of these scenes in this Star Wars movie with Princess Leia. And I'm like, that's not cool. Like, that's not cool at all. Like, I don't like any of that. Did the Carrie Fisher estate sign off on that? Like, it's troubling to me. I have a serious issue with that. I don't know. And again, I'm an old man yelling at a cloud, but it's problematic because, like you said, we're at the infancy here, and technology moves very quickly. And where are we going to be in 5 years from now? My biggest concern is just especially with all the misinformation that's in our media now. It's just something getting out there that causes some havoc.
For example, it could be very similar to something that happened with the original War of the Worlds.
Yeah, right.
Where
exactly.
That was just a radio program that nobody was told was fiction. Fake. Right. And people went nuts because they thought real aliens were invading because of just a dramatic radio telecast that was a, orchestrated thing. And so that with the nature of people that there's always going to be something, anytime you get this great step forward, there's going to be a nefarious step in line with that also somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, call me a pessimist, but
well, it's probably true, and that's the only thing is like I hadn't talked to many people. I hadn't talked to many people that were like optimistic about AI before I talked to Robert, so that's why I liked to get on the subject with him, because most of the time people do not feel comfortable with most of the stuff, and I feel like that's right.
No, and that I guess I'm kind of looking forward to that conversation because, yeah, Robert's the type of guy who could give you that perspective that, no, actually AI is good and here's why. And for what I do for a living, I wouldn't have a benefit for AI. So I, of course, fall back on the worst, my worst fears about it. So, yeah, I guess I keep an open mind about it, but...
I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's fun to talk about because we're in that infancy. I feel like before it's hard. It's sometimes, it's also hard to see what's going to be the next big thing, what's going to be staying and actually changing things, or everybody. Like, we were laughing about doing YouTube now. What if we would all be better if we'd have started 10 years ago, right? Just because of the natural chance of doing it and the time of repetitive behavior and just doing it all the time. So, is that something where like the more you get involved in the AI thing, you're going to know, and you might have a little bit of an advantage down the road? I don't know. I thought it was a fair point to talk about with Robert. So that was fun. And again, it was fun to talk to somebody who's actually really into it.
What do you guys have? You guys have any other big guests coming up? I mean,
so not officially. We've been talking to some other people. Nobody like huge, but I'm sure there's. So here's some. There's a bunch of people right now at Midwest Gaming Classic. Right? Is this I think that's what it's called. Because I was getting texts asking if I would be there. There's a convention.
Where's that at?
There's a convention right now going on this weekend, and I know like Shank is there and some other people that we're buddies with.
Where's that at, Steve?
I'm not sure, but Ryan from Castlemania Games, who's a good friend of mine, he's going to come on. He was asking me if I was going to be at there. He's like, I'm going to be there with a booth if you want to come hang out.
That's in Wisconsin, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's
I think it's in Milwaukee.
It's not telling me where it's at, but it looks like Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You're right.
It's Milwaukee. Yeah, that's right.
So, I know there's a lot of people there probably hanging out. Not as many as there were probably in Connecticut. But, Lewis and I had a good discussion about this too. It's now that, so last year my wife was pretty much staying at home, and now that she's back at work, I can't, a lot of things I can't just like leave town for.
Right.
Because I got kids and.
You got kids, you got the dogs.
The dogs. Yeah, the dogs. Gosh. They're, when I had to go to Florida, I had to take Brutus over to, he's so old now. My bulldog turns 15 in May.
Oh, wow.
Right? And like half the borders won't even take him.
That's a long time for a bulldog.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So he's fine health wise. And so I have to take him. I take him on, there's an app that you can get, and it tells you like people's houses that you can go take him to. So I have to take him to somebody's house, and it's like an hour away from here, and I have to drop him off there and then go get him so that I could go on a trip anywhere. And it's funny because when I put the name, or when I was signing up the information for him on the fill out form, it only lets me put that he's 13 years old. It won't go
that's the max.
That's the max age. So I just had to put that he was 13. It wouldn't let me go any further.
Poor Brutus.
Oh man, somebody was like, he's been wandering around. Somebody was asking me on the channel about, because I haven't shown him in a while. He's great, but he like Dude, he stinks so much now. Like, it's just the smell. He just like farts all the time. Just like lays around and just nonstop farting.
No, there. And if people watching, like, if you don't have a dog, like, there is a distinct, like, old dog smell. There really is. Like, it's just.
Yeah.
They just don't care anymore.
Yeah. We live on kind of like a hill, and he still does this funny thing where he'll go to the top of the hill and then he'll just get on his back and then just like barrel roll down the hill. I don't know why he's doing it. He'll just go up to the top of the hill. And the problem is like, he doesn't give a fuck. He'll roll through like 4 piles of his own dog shit that like he shed on all week. It's like a barrel roll down the hill. And then he'll like get up and like feels like good to him. I don't know what it's like what are you? And he's done that forever, but now he's on the hill and he really gets going.
He's figured out life, man.
I guess
he's mastered it. We haven't. We're still catching up to Brutus.
So this is the trick. I'll tell everybody, if you have an old pet, the trick. You want to know the trick to keeping them healthy?
Sure.
You switch them back to puppy food.
Really?
Puppy food, yeah. I've had Lewis.
What
I've had Lewis on puppy food for 2 years. No, Brutus
isn't going to talk to you again.
I know. My hope is that it's just so much that he probably won't even watch it. He's just like,
where are we at? We're at over 2 hours. Right?
We're at 1:53. So
okay,
yeah, I don't think he's going to sit up and watch this whole thing back. He's got the Robert Dale Smith interview to go back through and worry about. So he sent me. He sent me that same kind of message before.
Did he really?
Yeah, like, he'll send me these messages. Oh man, he's like, oh mate, I got a bunch of weed and I got stoned, and then he's like, oh, I got too high, man, I got too high, and then and he's like, I gotta quit. And then I don't know. It is like quits for 2 weeks, maybe.
All right. I'm betraying all these confidences now, but I gotta see if there's anything else. No, I'm just like other funny things in this conversation he sent me. I just said, yeah, man, you let Steve cook for 25 straight minutes on that Florida story. I said, I could tell something was off. And he said, I want to have fun and chill, but obviously there's some limits. I could feel it was also ha ha ha. Oh man, this Steve story is going on way too long.
That's always the problem.
No. But then I said, I mean, that's what makes Steve so great, is he'll just take things into a crazy direction sometimes. And he said, for sure, 25 minutes without a break is a bit too long. But then I was just vibing.
Was it literally 25 minutes of me fucking talking?
You kept going.
Oh my god! You kept going about this. 25 minutes.
You kept going on about this cop in Florida, like.
Oh man. We weren't even drinking that day. He just
you were just smoked out of your mind. That's what. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. The funniest thing is when
it's not like we're doing any better. It's not like we're doing any better. I mean, I'm buzzing. I don't know about you, but I for sure am.
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience can tell.
Well, I guess the last Neo Geo thing we can talk about.
Wait a minute. We have more viewers now. As I'm drunk, yes, than we did when we started. When we were sober,
because that's what it takes. It's a slow build. So when you're considering the Neo Geo thing, what about the Neo? Oh, what was that damn thing? I can't even. CD? No, the Neo X or Neo Geo.
Oh, the Neo Geo X.
Yes, the handheld.
Someone wrote me. Thank you for bringing this up. Someone wrote me and said, SNK Playmore, or whoever owns SNK now, I don't even know. Neo Alec, help me out. Who owns SNK now? Because he knows everything. He's like the authority on this stuff. They should put out a Neo Geo AES Mini. You know, just like the Genesis Mini and the NES Mini and all that stuff. And I said, well, I think that was kind of the intent behind the Neo Geo X. And for people that don't know what the Neo Geo X is, the premise behind the Neo Geo X was actually really cool. It was a we got a super chat.
Hey, Tony.
Cheers, fellas. Loving this stream. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Tony Escobar. Thank you.
We're just drunk and rambling, but whatever. Yeah. But the Neo Geo X was a handheld Neo Geo, and it had a thumbstick, and it had 4 buttons like the Neo Geo CD pad. It had a LCD screen. It was kind of like a Switch or like a, I don't know, like a, but you know, it was a good quality piece of hardware, and you had a AES shell that would open. I had one a few years back.
Oh, you actually had one of these?
I had one. Yeah, I bought it. Well, I bought it before I had my AES.
Okay.
And then you could kind of dock it.
Yeah.
And they would have a 3.5 millimeter stereo jack that would plug into the headphone jack, and then they would have another one where it would be a HDMI jack, and you would dock it, you'd close it, and it looked like you were playing an AES without a cartridge in it. And then, but what was cool about it was it had the original joysticks with the micro switches, but it was a USB connection instead of the like the arcade connection that it had. It had a USB connection, so you could just plug it in, and that was routed into the Neo Geo X, and you could play with the joystick the games. The problem was the emulation was just shit. It was terrible. All of the games were terrible. Right. The max resolution was 480p, and you would carry 480p over HDMI, or you could have composite, and the composite video connection was awful. But the workaround I did was I had a whatever that HDMI to component adapter that Bob has on his Amazon thing the Porta thing that I'm constantly linking to. I had that running into a like a Sony 36 FS 100 or whatever, and it looked great. I thought it looked really good over component. And I would play it, and it only had Steve, I want to say it had like maybe 3 dozen games that they actually finally released, and they would come on little micro SD cards, and you load them in. And it kind of gave you the Neo Geo experience, but it wasn't, like I said, the emulation wasn't good. There was a ton of screen tearing.
Yeah.
It really wasn't all that great. So I ended up selling it, and I sold it when evidently it was right after they discontinued it, and it was like a hot commodity. Yeah. I ended up, because I had they released it was pretty cool because the SD cards with all the games loaded up onto them came into those like I featured in my video, the hard rigid AES hard clasp cases. It came in something like that, but when you opened it up, it just had a manual, and it had like a little foam insert with a little pocket for the SD card. And they put like SNK released like all these SD cards, like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and each SD card had like 4 or 5 games on them. They released one SD card that had all of them on them, and I bought that one. It was like $200, and wow. So I sold that and the Neo Geo X. I sold all that for like $650. Like somebody on eBay wanted to pay that much money for it, so I took all that money that I made off the Neo Geo X, and I bought an AES for it. Bought the real deal, and I imported it from Japan. I got a Japanese one, and did the Unibios, and right then Terra Onion put out the Neo SD, so I bought that for like $400, and I never looked back. Like I'm so happy. Like if I couldn't find a buyer that spent that much money on a Neo Geo X, I wouldn't have gotten the original. But like in hindsight, but it's funny. Like you think, wow, you really worked that guy over the coals selling a Neo Geo X for $600. But you look now, like go on eBay, they're going for they're going for quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
they're like a collector's item now.
It is.
I don't know why.
It was something that was going for, price had come down, and it was always one of those items that was criticized because of the emulation. I don't actually know if you follow modern vintage gamer. I think he did a video. He did a video on the machine recently, and I remember I think there was something where they weren't following the licensing agreement of the emulator properly.
That's what it was.
And at the end of the day, like SNK pulled production of everything. Because
that's what it was.
If you look at the machine, it was a brilliant idea. It should have been the
cool.
future, and it should have. If you think about that device, that could have propelled SNK to be God only knows what if they'd have been proper with that thing, because that's practically a Switch how it's designed almost.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and they ended up releasing what became that Japanese version of the MVS, that MVS Mini. It was like a candy cab. And then it had and you could plug it into your flat screen. Then you had that big ass, arcade stick that that came out 3 or 4 years ago.
That like all white one.
Yeah, that all white one. Yeah, but the Neo Geo X predated that, and I bought it new. I thought it was awesome when I got it. I thought it was just the coolest thing. I was like, and there were hacks for it. You could download Final Burn Neo and put it on. You could hack it, put Final Burn Neo on it. You could put Unibios on it. You could upload every single Neo Geo ROM onto it. And it was like you had basically a Mister, not a Mister, like not as accurate as Mister, but you had a really good emulator right there. You had the whole thing, but in a cool Neo Geo form factor with the original joystick. It looked really neat. Someone brought up in the chat that there was a mod where you could actually convert that Neo Geo X joystick into an AES. You could. I saw that floating around too. That was really cool. But those joysticks actually go for quite a bit now because the Mister community wants them. They want to.
Because they're USB.
They're USB, so the Mister community wants them, and it makes a whole lot of sense.
It does.
So yeah, because it only came with one, and I know you could get a second one, and even the second one when I bought it was pretty expensive because they were going pretty quickly. A lot of people wanted them for their emulators.
Well, I never owned the AES console. I got really close one time. There was a guy when I first started getting PVMs, and this would have been when I got like a big load of 13 20-inch medical PVMs in my garage, and I probably hadn't done but maybe 1 or 2 YouTube videos at this point. And I met a guy on Facebook who was about an hour away from me, and I had set up a deal with him to trade him a 20-inch PVM for an AES console and like a controller. And I don't even know that we were including a game, maybe one game that wasn't worth anything. But he just kept flaking out on me and never did anything about it. And that would actually been a better deal for him probably now, because the 20-inch PVM probably would sell for more than just the console. But I was pretty disappointed. I actually bought a game. It was like, that was the cool thing. That was one of the cool things about that system, was that you could buy the Japanese games and it wouldn't matter. So
which are a lot of times much cheaper. Yeah,
that's what I did. I bought like Samurai Showdown 2 or 3 for not very much money, Japanese version of that. But I never got to use it. I finally just sold that copy back because I never got an AES. Mm-hmm. I was always stuck with the little hot dog. The little weenie.
How's the little hot dog doing? We never got to see the hot dog run. We never got to see the weenie. Well, I don't know.
The weenie crapped out. You did well. It's been running just on.
It's on the YouTube. Super Mario. There it is. Okay, there it is. I see it now.
I don't know how long anybody wants to hang out because I've still got this Like, I haven't even mentioned this crap.
Oh, we haven't even opened your box. Yeah, open your box, dude.
we
get 2 hours. We haven't even opened your box.
Well, I don't know. Talk about my box. I'm about to go piss on a box. I've got to make sure that I pee somewhere that's off camera right now. If I go,
well, go pee. Go pee. Here, I'll fill. Here. I'll talk to the chat.
See, look at this. Here, we're gonna get really scary here for a minute.
All right, go talk. Look. You're gonna get exactly 22 more minutes out of me.
All right, 22.
Because I'm at it. Well, here's the thing. Here's my problem, Steve. I'm out of liquor. Okay.
Wow.
So
yeah, I'm pretty low. I've only got.
I drank like a third of a bottle, so I'm pretty.
All right, hang on 1 second.
All right, somebody talk to me over here. Let me see. I'm gonna see if there's any questions here in the chat. Ariel Mendoza. Hey, good evening. Good to see you, sir. Trying to see. I haven't seen Dubsenhauser in a while. He hasn't talked. Oh, there he is. What's in the box? I don't know, man. How was your YouTuber experience going? That's a good question, Dubes. I appreciate that. The biggest thing that I did not expect from YouTube was how much of a social network it actually is. I always thought of YouTube as just something that you make a movie, you upload it, people like it, they don't like it. If you get really big, you get monetized. That's about it. But and I never really looked at YouTube as being monetized. Like I don't care. I just get a lot of I get a lot of satisfaction from just making something, feeling the accomplishment of just making something and publishing it. But I didn't really anticipate the social aspect of it, of people like replying to something that you made or commenting on it, and you get to interact with that person. That I find that I'm, if you guys, the only reason most people know me is because I have a following on Twitter, but like I feel like the YouTube all of the YouTube discourse that I'm getting, it takes me away from the Twitter because I'm just getting so much feedback on YouTube. So I think that's really cool. I completely underestimated how much of a social networking platform YouTube can be and how much it can connect you to people. And I think that's really sweet. And yeah, the feedback has just been so positive and just been so blown away and just humbled by it. So that to answer your question, Dubsenhauser, that is how the YouTuber experience is going. Okay, Boomer. I don't know if that was for me. Gotta ask 8-Bit, what's your thoughts on something like the Open MVS as an affordable alternative to the AES? Look, I don't care how you play Neo Geo. Play Neo Geo. As long as it's lag, as long as it doesn't introduce a ton of lag, play it. If you want to play Open MVS, if you want to play MVS carts on an AES, if you want to play on Mister, just play Neo Geo because you got to experience that arcade hardware for yourself. It's you've got really some of the best, if not the best, 2D arcade gaming out there. It's really the best. Yeah, Reluctant Hero, I agree. Open MVS, phenomenal piece. Access Neo Geo any way you can. It really is the best. Okay, Steve's got a box open. What do we got here? What do we got?
Let's see. This is box number 1. So I've got a
I see Extron. Is that an Extron switch? What is this?
Oh my gosh, look at this thing. So this was a donation bin from a viewer, Patreon member. He said he got a bunch of this stuff in with some monitors and didn't really know what to do with it, so I told him I would take it. So this right here is a Tektronix. A lot of this stuff is Tektronix gear, and I'll try to hold this up so just to give a better view to some of the people at home. But this is a TSG 170A NTSC television generator. So this should just generate a bunch of crazy, like standardized either patterns, signals.
Really?
Also, like weird test generate. It's just a signal. It's just going to generate a bunch of signals according to.
What is it? How does it output, Steve?
So let's see. So we have sync, blanking, black, test signal, Oh yeah, bars. I don't know really, man. Vertical drive,
What
horizontal drive.
what are the connectors?
Sync.
Are they BNC connectors?
Yeah, it's a BNC machine.
Okay.
So I've got to read up exactly. Some of these I have read up on. I didn't read up on all of them because there's a bunch of them here. But
Look, you know what's cool? Like, show that to the camera again. Like, hold that up. Like, the 240p test suite could probably do 3/4 of what that massive fucking unit does.
yeah,
You know?
oh yeah, it could probably do more than what this thing
Right.
does. But
Right.
so what this would do is this would send in a certain pattern that was a standard, so you could check like your equipment up to it and make sure it was
That's cool.
working. Some of
That's
this
cool.
other stuff's a little bit more useful, I think, but you never know what the actual patterns are in it till you
Right.
see. But we got.
I'd say hook it up to that OEV right now, man. If you could.
Yeah,
That'd be
well, if I
sweet.
just see what else we got in here. There's a bunch of them. See, here's another. Here's another one.
That one looks newer.
This is a sync generator, SPG
cool.
17170A. So this is just generating some kind of a sync. Man, they've got. So this is all obviously rack equipment. This is pulled out of a rack, it looks like. So
Yep.
it's got black, burst flag, blanking, sync drive. I got no idea about how to use this thing. So let's see what else. Well, we do have the OEV here.
So wait a minute, Steve. I missed that. Where did this came from? Just a viewer? This just came from a guy.
A guy who reached out to me and said he had a bunch of this stuff. Here's some more
That's cool.
rack mounts. I paid for the shipping, so it did end up costing me. There's 3 boxes. It's like $200.
Okay.
So this was not really the thing that I was super excited about. Was these sync generator and this test generator that was still cool, but not the most exciting one. So let's see. Looks like it didn't break though.
This is exciting. I'm really I'm floored, man. I can't wait. See what's in here. No, I'm serious. I like people getting new shit. It makes me happy.
Well,
It does.
All right, so good. The last one is going to be the best one, apparently.
Oh, here's another one. Here we go.
Yeah. Woo. Now this
This
one
another
might actually.
Tektronix unit.
Yes, all this is Tektronix.
Okay.
SPG 422. Oh, so this is component digital sync generator. Oh, so
Nice.
that's even something I'll probably never have to. I don't know. Use maybe because it's again digital, but maybe not. I don't know. So this is. Oh, it's funny. It came from a Pensacola junior college. Property of the Department of Education of Florida. That's what it's got written all
right.
over it.
I'm surprised they're still not using component in Florida. That's how far back they are. Turn it around. Let me see the.
All
inputs
these
and outputs
inputs
on
are
that.
pretty similar. This one's a little bit different.
It's all BNC though.
Well, yeah, and then it's got serial audio through these like microphone jacks and a remote, but everything else is BNC. And this one, again, it just says a bunch of blacks. So I don't know if like the blacks, like the black one is supposed to be like the video signal that comes out.
So it's not a switcher. It's actually just a test pattern sync generator.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Wow,
the
okay.
problem, from what I could tell, it's like if you were in a broadcasting area
Right.
or situation and you were piecing together different pieces of analog video, a lot of the times those two pieces of video on their own don't have the same sync. Like
Right.
the sync frames will mismatch. So, for example, this kind of equipment generates a normal sync, and so you try to then dial like both those patterns, those videos into that sync pattern on a waveform generator, which is like the one I was excited about. That's the last box looks
Well,
like.
spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Wait a minute.
So here is this one's. Let's see. A synchronous changeover. So another sync thing. I don't know what I'm going to do with any of these parts.
What the fuck are you going to do with all this shit?
Build a community college course.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So again,
this was the end of analog video, folks. Here we are.
This is it. I know, right? I don't really know about any of this stuff. I'm hoping that somebody can tell me, because it says the test bars comes out of. Okay, there's
that's cool.
So this one has a video, like an actual video input where you could do just composite right out of this input here. So maybe we can hook that up and try it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'd love to see one of those hooked up to that OEV right there. I think that'd be really cool.
Let's try it. That's the closest one to possibly being done. All right. Box number 3.
It's the big one.
Let's see. Where did I put? I think I had left my knife in that last box that I threw away.
Oh.
My knife. All right. These.
Here, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna get drink number 5. Why not?
You need another drink, and I need a knife.
I do.
Where did I put that knife? That's a scary thing. All right. No knife. All right. Well, I'll let my friend get his drink, and we will bust into this last box here, and hopefully this one will have the cool equipment in it that we can take a closer look at here. And we'll finish off Mr. Filibuster. Hope everybody's had a good time hanging out tonight. I've had a good time with our friend, Mr. 8-Bit Esquire, and with all of you. And now we'll open this box. With a new cutting device.
Hey, Steve. I
What? Ran out of liquor?
So, all right, my last drink tonight is my favorite bourbon. It is Colonel E.H. Taylor, the small batch. Now, you got to help me out, okay? Because I have a feeling that you can get this pretty easily in Virginia, whereas in Michigan, I cannot get it easily. So
you sound like my stepfather now. He's pissed at me because I couldn't get on the damn what's the Van Winkle. The damn
yeah, Pappy, yeah, Grandpappy,
yeah, right. So they're like, oh yeah, Pappy Van Winkle lottery's coming up, and I literally got on the lottery website the second day after, and they were like closed. The lottery's closed.
It's a thing. Okay, so like this was my last. So I had E.H. Taylor. I was like, this is my last drink. I'm gonna go out with a bang. If you see it in a liquor store, I will pay you
Taylor.
double whatever your shipping is to get it to me. Okay, like I can't get it in Michigan, and I love
I'll
this
look.
stuff.
There's a lot of this is a different one in Virginia. We have an ABC store. Do you have that, or do you have old school just liquor stores?
I just got a liquor store. Got a mom and pop liquor store.
Yeah, see, they're managed by the state in this state.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of odd. They have their own thing called the ABC
which is
board.
good though, because there's probably no markup on any of the liquor, is there? It's probably all state minimum.
Son of a bitch! This is the one that. Oh, it's just got a little crack on it. Holy shit, Roger! Wait till you see this box. Keep going about
what do you
the
got
whiskey.
in here?
I mean, it's
what do you got?
like
What the fuck is that?
Cone CRT in here.
What is going on in there?
Good grief! They didn't pack this for shit. Oh my gosh! Look at this.
Oh God!
Look at this.
What is that?
Is that the longest CRT you've ever seen? Baby, that's
what the fuck is that?
We got Pappy Long Tube here, baby.
Dude, show me the screen. Show me the screen. Let me see it.
Yeah, so this is. Make sure I don't shock myself.
Oh, look at that.
It's So this is a fun little device here. This somebody in an editing studio would have to pay like $4,000 for this thing.
Yeah.
What's
the manufacturer on
it's
that?
Again, it's Tektronix. It's a waveform monitor. So you put waveforms through, like you put a screen display up. And the good thing that you can do with this is like, so you pull up a screen of like test bars, and this will show how they look on like, so it doesn't show anything vertically, but it uses it gives you a graph of like how your light is and whether it's between 0 and 100 or like 10 and 90. And then you try to line it up between whatever you desire, right? Like, or if it's overbeamed, it helps you with like color grading.
So give me a practical example that you would use that for in your workshop.
That's what I've got to figure out.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Right. That's what I want to try to figure out is like, what's a good practical use for this besides checking? So this probably, let's see what it has. Probably channel A, channel B, and a reference channel. So yeah, this is going to be composite video only. So you could check things from NTSC composite video sources.
Sure.
It'd just be for fun. It'd be like, I could hook up again, like the 240p test suite to this, or any really old analog console that puts out composite video, and read the device to see if it's actually in like calibration according to the standard. Now, the other thing is this device itself calibrated any longer, or does it need freaking new capacitors? Look at this shit.
Yeah. I saw, dude, when you pulled that out, I saw the number of capacitors.
Look at that. Look at all this.
Like, yeah.
I mean, this side, and it's got potentiometers.
That makes the OG Xbox look like a fucking Famicom. Like,
look at all those big boy capacitors right there. So this is, wow. Yeah, this is a beauty right here. That's a cool device, though, still. Look how long that tube is.
Yeah, so what happens if your calibrator needs calibration? That's a problem.
That's a thing.
Right?
That's a thing, though. All right, so that's good. I'm super glad that did not break, because that was just literally wrapped in one layer of bubble wrap.
So this guy just sent you all this stuff for free. You just paid for the shipping.
Yeah, but what is he going to do with it? He's like, yeah, somebody took it and actually does something with it. I don't
even think you know what you're gonna. You don't even know what you're gonna do with it. So that's what's so great about it.
I might build a giant robot out of it, like that.
Why not?
Artist, and if I just feed patterns into it while it's up on a robot body.
You could program it with OpenChat, CPT.
This one did take a little dive. Oh, this one's got 2 screens in it, Roger.
Okay.
And it almost took a dive on me. It's heavy. Woo. Let's see what we got here. All right. It's this one. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, it's got double screens.
Look at this.
And all kinds of knobbies.
What is that?
This one's heavy. This is another set. This is the one that I knew was coming that I was most excited about. Oh, this is awesome. So this
it's fucking Christmas morning.
Mountain of. So, damn. The only problem is I don't think it's set up for RGB. I think it's just going to be composite again. So you can get some of these that are in RGB form that are even better because you can separate your colors. But it's hard to see on this screen down here. Goodness, can't even see on the camera.
Yeah, I was about to say, could you tilt it up a little bit?
On this screen over here.
Yeah.
Which you can't see.
There we go. I can see it a little bit better now, yeah.
This screen right here has a circle in it. And that's like, that gives you this crazy like figure 8 pattern or diamond pattern when you have all your colors balanced correctly. Like if you have too much green or too much red, it leans the way that shows you. And it's like marked with like red, green, blue on here. Like each corner axis. And then, so this one you can send a waveform through. Damn. Probe. The problem is there's like 100 settings on this thing, and I don't know exactly how to use it. But
okay, yeah, okay. Excuse me.
But
so I hate to ask, but again, what is the practical use for that in your workshop?
So these two things I can like. The last item that I showed you, I mean, it should just, the only thing it really can do is help me be able to calibrate composite on equipment, really.
Sure.
And then if you calibrate, so if you calibrate the composite on some monitors, then all the other calibrations fall in line from there. Some of them.
Right.
So if you get that checked, this is all going to be going back to more of the color stuff than geometry.
Got it.
But these things are just super old.
But honestly, composite is the most useful application for that, right? Because
well, and that's
RGB,
the
you're getting the raw signal. It doesn't matter. But composite,
that's where it
matters.
The only thing it would be better is if it was an RGB. I could get RGB separated on here for color grading, and then I can individually. Then when I'm in RGB, I can calibrate RGB to look the best, right? Because So that waveform monitor, it can help you do like a perfect white balance with mechanical means on your device, and the way it does that is like the white is a perfect, exactly incremental combination of red, green, and blue together. If you have those three primary colors in equal intensities, then your white is perfect. And in the theoretical scientific world, of course, that's not what actually happens, but you can tell from an image. It's hard for our eyes to tell, like the difference between something that is calibrated for color and it's like 85% up to like 99%, right? Whereas 99%, if you saw that versus 85%, you'd say, dang, that looks a lot better, actually. But if you're just looking at 85%, it looks good enough to your eye to where you're not really telling what it's off by. Or something you might get into some situation where an image has too much yellow, like it looks a little bit yellow or too much.
Well, no, I mean, no, but you bring up a good point, like, because those PVMs have the color temperature that you could set. And it's hard for you to tell what is normal for you. And it's just a matter of taste. You're not sure, do you like your white to look a little more blue? Do you like it to look a little more warm? So is that something that these devices could help? Is that what you're...
So yes, if they're working correctly, they can help. They help you turn that color image on the screen, and it gives you a graph reading. Mm-hmm. And then all you do is you go into the sub menu or the adjustments on your device or your monitor, for example, and then if the graph on the device looks like it's like, okay, if the graph would improve by adding more red, then you go in there and you start cranking the red gun up.
I gotcha. Okay.
It's just like somebody just put it. It reminds me of camera coloring. That's what this was a lot used for. Was like coloring cameras in a studio, anything like that. Camera coloring, and then obviously a lot of guys that were the best with these things. So I found out like the best video editor were guys who would do like documentary films in like the 90s. Because if you think about that, if you had a documentary, you could have freaking footage from any different region, right? It could be any of the NTSC regions. It could be PAL. It could be CCAM. And then you're expected to take that footage at whatever frame rate it is and whatever the sync is and try to connect that into a line in the old-fashioned way, right? In video editing, as opposed to now where you just drag and drop everything and it just matches. Right. You don't have to worry about it. So,
well, that's cool. Well, you got a hell of a haul, it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of junk here. My
for the
wife's
$200 you spent in shipping.
Well, I could definitely get half of it back in scrap metal.
Well, no.
I know,
Look,
I'm just
Steve.
kidding.
You can make a video out of that shit and get 20,000 views. I mean, that's
It's actually been
you know.
calibrated recently, so that's pretty interesting.
There you go. See?
So that's that. Like that's. I definitely will spend more time seeing what I could get these to display, and how I can use them. Because that was even a trick to me. It's like how. So I'm gonna have to send my signal into the monitor, and then use the output of the monitor into this, right? Or not to this, but to the waveform monitor. So I send that into this.
Did the guy that sent it to you? Did he tell you like?
Oh, he has no idea about it. He literally
He
just
didn't know what.
No. It was a part. What happens is it was a part of a hall from somebody's studio, or
Right.
some other.
Well, the community college or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was. It was like, hey, we called this university and they had these monitors, and they might have gotten 5 PVMs out of it, and this was with it.
Okay.
But most of this stuff is like, it's not super it's not something cool. Like, it doesn't add. It's not like old editing tools that add special effects like to video.
You know what? Like, I told you that story when I got my PVM, my 19 inch that you serviced. It came with that. It was like a Betamax editor, like an editing station, and the guy was trying to sell it to me for like another $300, and I passed on it because I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do with that? Like, I don't even know where to even get a beta cassette, let alone a beta camcorder, to do the editing, that could hook up to this PVM. But I wish I got it just to, like, because it had all the cool, like you just said, it had all the cool effects. It had all the little knobs. It was right there on board. It had all the cool gauges. Like, I don't know what I would do with it, but it's just, it's a piece of editing equipment. It's a piece of history that, Sony had the top of the line shit back in the day. Like, it's cool to keep that continuity with all this stuff.
I think it would be super nerdy to put, it would
so
have
nerdy.
like some guy somewhere has like a 1989 like video studio in his basement that he just goes in and he just plays with analog video
with the fucking and he's got the camera too. Like, he's got.
Well, that's
he's got it.
the funny thing you say that is I've had not recently, but when I used to have the connection in Tennessee with the recycling plant, they used to try to give me so much of that crap. It would be like truckloads of Ikegami cameras that were standard definition,
Right.
and that
Right.
were on freaking arms like they had been in the NFL.
Right.
Like they were
Yeah.
on these like construction arms. It would have taken me 3 trucks to get all this stuff back. I never took any of it because it's like I don't even have anywhere to put it.
There's a question. There's a question in the chat. What were the medical PVMs used for? Gamer, they were used for looking into people's assholes. That's what they were used for.
Yes, or hey, when you went, they were like, "Oh, congratulations, you're having a baby." I could almost see the baby's.
Yeah.
I could almost see the baby's penis in 480i.
That's right. That's right. It was all ultrasounds, man.
Could you
That's all
imagine?
it was.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's what it was. Ultrasounds and colonoscopies, and
if you've ever if you've had a baby recently, you've gone in, you've seen the big ultrasound equipment and the computers, and they have these. I don't want to say they're like sophisticated LCDs, but they are sophisticated pieces of technology. But back in the day, they were all. I mean, they weren't LCDs back in the day, so they had these PVMs. Matter of fact, Steve's looking at
This
one.
is
one in an OEV 143. Olympus made the medical equipment, and Steve, you made the comment earlier in a repair video that's the best looking PVM you could get. I agree. I love the color pattern of that. I love the look of the casing.
yeah,
That like gray blue on the off white. It looks so cool. It's a Trinitron tube. It's a 600 line Trinitron tube. It looks awesome. But that's what they were used for.
This,
They sell the white variants, the 1953s, the all those, but I like the Olympus variant. That's the best version.
So the Olympus is, the funny thing is if you go 1 year before this, Olympus made an OEV 142 and a 202.
It was
yeah. But those are white. Yeah, those are white like the other ones, and this is the only one. But this is the cart that this is on is a literal scope cart. It's like a smaller scope cart that they would wheel into a examination room and pull a scope off of, and do whatever wanding they were doing with it.
If you needed a colonoscopy, it'd be done on that tube.
Another thing they used these ones for was Olympus is famous for cameras, right? And lenses. Really good lenses. They also made microscopes, lab microscopes with photographic lenses. These were the monitors that Olympus would sell with those lab microscopes. You would sell this Olympus $75,000 microscope with video capabilities in the early 2000s, and you would bring it with a OEV like this. Thoughts on a JVC AV? Oh crap, that stand and all. Yeah, it's the stand. It's probably seen some crap, that one.
You know what, Steve? You made a good point in I don't know what episode it was, if it was a live stream or one of the Cathode Ray podcasts, but you made a pretty good distinction about BVMs, like your F series and your D series, A series. Why? Yes, those go for a significant amount of money, but if it comes to just playing games, you'd much rather have like just a solid M2 or an M4 or like an OEV you got in front of you, like a PVM, just because of their reliability. Like, could you touch upon that a little bit? Because I think that's a really good point that a lot of people miss. Like, people think that, okay, if I'm gonna get the best thing I could possibly get, I'm gonna go spend a few $1,000s on an 800 line or a 900 line BVM, and that's going to be the best thing I could possibly get. But really, maybe a PVM, if it's a 600 line or an 800 line, might suit you better. And here's why. Could you, just with your expertise, kind of touch upon that a little bit?
Well, one little secret here, starting with on the medical monitors specifically, I think there's a secret to these, and that this is the secret. Sony has always taken and put their best top of the line tubes in their higher end products. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's take the 800 line, which is one step above this tube for the Trinitron. That would have gone in M series monitors from the M4 all the way up to badass BVMs. Same exact tube model. I believe
L4, L5.
Yeah, all that. So I believe when Sony would have been making these tubes, and this is just a theory, but Sony would have taken these tubes that they were all graded on a grading scale. They were always graded. They were tested for quality, and some were sent to B stock, B level, and if it was a good one, it was sent to A stock. Not only that, I feel like they would take the best of those tubes and stick them in their highest end monitors, right? So to me, I felt like, this is what I always felt like on the M series. I felt like the M4U would have gotten all the bullshit worst of the 800 line tubes that came out of the factory were going in that PVM M4U. And that's why I'm like, man, that thing is kind of like overrated in that aspect, that you're probably getting a lower quality tube as opposed to the F or whatever BVM of quality.
But the prices are crazy on an M4. right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's only because of that extra 200 lines on paper.
Right.
Now, if you take the very opposite of that, or not opposite, but if you go down to the 600 lines, like the 600 lines from 800 lines, you're stepping down. You take that 600 line tube. The 600 line tube was in all the other PVMs, no BVMs. But the best PVM that had a 600 line tube would have been this medical monitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was the highest end one they made was 600 lines. So my theory is that a lot of these medical monitors would have had the highest end tubes that were in that 600 line category. I think they would have gone to this and like the 54Qs or the M series. And then, you could step down from there. But I feel like, to me, it always seems like the medical ones look the best on these 600 line versions.
Do you think like an M2, you think like a 1950 looks better than an M2? Just the medical monitor looks sharper.
I don't know. That's hard because all that always gets to the actual individual monitor.
Sure.
Because you can look at a tube and one that's been too used. So if the only difference there is then you're getting a bunch of extra features. For sure. You're definitely getting more features. And I feel like if you're Sony and you could charge more for the extra features, you're not just going to, this is a lower cost item. You're going to not stick the higher end tube in that. You know what I mean? Like, I would think of it from a business perspective at the time.
Well, no, like for example, like I have a 1942. A 1942 is a 600 line tube.
No, it's a 42. Yes, that's a good one.
It's a great tube, and I look at it, and I sit pretty far back. I sit back probably 6-7 feet from it when I play games on it, and it looks sharp as hell.
Yeah,
and when you run 480i content on it, especially PlayStation 2, I swear to God, it looks high definition. Like it looks, when you run 480i content on one of these PVMs, it never could look possibly better. It really can't. And that's even running it from an analog to digital scaler like the RetroTank 5X. Like it will never look better than on a PVM. And I'm sitting there and I'm playing it, and part of me is, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I don't know how this could look any better. Even if I were playing this on an 800 or 900 line tube, I don't know how it would look any better. And specifically 480i content, because 480i on a 800 or 900 line tube, you're going to see a lot more of that Bob deinterlace, right? You're going to see a lot more of that.
You're definitely going to see it's flickering is more apparent. It's definitely something that, and the reason it's like that is so you can see imperfections in the image and try to correct it before it goes out to the public. So that 600 TV, for 480i content to be enjoyed, it was always designed to be at really no higher than 600 TV lines. You could argue that 480i ideally would look best at 450 TV lines or something like that, because it's, that refresh rate, when you get the higher line count, it becomes more visible. Now, if you're a total, like if you get a total hard on for scan lines, then
which people do,
and that's your thing. Then
that 900 line tube.
Then your 900 line and your 1,000 line tubes are going to show a more. You get up close to that CRT on 240p, and you won't see any finer scan lines in like the natural environment than that. That's really. I think that's where all this probably started from, was the intense desire to see those natural scan lines. I'll admit that's what kind of got me like hard for CRTs in the beginning, was this whole idea that I had been messing around with CRTs my whole life. and I had never seen in my memory this real defined scanline thing.
But from my perspective, like I'm just a consumer, and I sent you what I just bought from Japan. I just bought a couple more 42s. I buy this stuff. I buy the 600 line tubes. I can get these for under $100 from Japan. But then when you try to get the M4s, when you try to get the L4s and the L5s, when you try to get the 800 and 900 line tubes, they're like 4 times as much. And, for me, I mean, the whole premise of my YouTube channel is are you getting, what are you getting for your money? And I don't know if you're really getting, are you really getting that much more for your money for those 200 extra lines or the 300 extra lines for the really high-end BVMs? And some of this is line count versus multi-sync. Multi-sync that's a big deal. You'd be able to get this, you could show that 31 kilohertz at 480p. You could show widescreen. Like some of that stuff is really cool. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about just like the sharpness of the image itself. Is it really worth the money? And you brought up Steve in one of your more recent videos about I think you serviced the OEV. I think it was a 19 that you did, where you're just like, I think this is the sweet spot. Like this is kind of it for. 240p is going to look great. 40i will never look better on this tube, just because you're not going to have as much flickering. But and with that, 240p will look still really sharp. It won't look as sharp as it will on like a 800 or 900 line tube, but it'll look pretty good on this. This is kind of the sweet spot. I don't know, man. When it comes to cost benefit analysis, I think what you're looking at right in front of you with that OEV 14, you can't get much better than that, can you? I mean, just a dollars and cents wise.
Well, it's really no, and the thing is, they're full of features, and they're not going to like once you get into that BVM realm, you're really pushing things that. I don't mean to sound like a dick, but at any moment that thing could just fry out.
Right, like the reliability aspect of it too, right?
Even if it's serviced, something on it's going to go bad eventually. It's like it's like a classic Ferrari or something. Yeah. When it was originally there, it had to be serviced every 500 miles or every 6 months, and then you had to go pay some tech $5,000 to do that. It's like this is when you're talking about that super high end, those BVMs everybody wants and everybody pays an arm and a leg for. I always say proceed with extreme caution. I'd rather see somebody spend money on these kind of level PVMs because these are going to last a long time most of the time. I mean, I rarely have people get a serviced one of these and and ever have an issue, right? They're not going to really have an issue. But and the BVMs are just a lot more tricky. You can easily crank a setting too high on those and damage something. Right. So it's just like people who drive BVMs, there are BMWs. There's a 3-letter acronym. They're not that far off. It's like
right.
Expensive, both of them. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're not. Race Aroni was saying he's been using a 14M2.
Yeah, I just read that.
And hunting for a BVM. I mean, you're not. It's not like the step up to a BVM. See, the problem is you get into a BVM, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like the BVM as much as far as like the form factor. It's bigger. It's longer.
It weighs a ton.
It weighs a ton.
It's huge.
It looks more like these look cool and stylish almost compared to those.
Right.
So,
well, you know what? You know what the thing is with me? Why I was okay buying the 42Q is because it looked very similar to a KV, like a consumer set, and it didn't look like some PVMs look like. I mean, they look like professional video equipment, so they look kind of janky in your setup. They just don't have a vibe to them, you know. And this sounds so superficial and stupid, but like my 42Q, it looks like it could just, you know, it just looks like a random CRT that anybody had in the late 80s or early 90s. And you lose that with BVMs. BVMs look like they look like professional video equipment, because that's what they are. It just seems so out of place. And I don't know, you brought up in your one of your videos that, like, yeah, these things are just meant to be maintained fairly quickly on the fly, and here's replacement parts, and we're going to spend a couple $1,000 and we're going to swap this card, and here it is. But the PVMs you know, have a much more a better track record of reliability, really.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very hardy, and they, like, the thing is, it's Sony went through that design period on these PVMs where it's pretty close to the same design between right after the era of your PVM. They changed to the one with the buttons and the service menus right after that. Right. So when they did that came out in about 94, 95. Well, hell, they stuck with that design all the way up to the L series, which is the early series. Yeah, to the end. So, you know, they really perfected that design and made it really a really reliable product that just sat there in medical environments on a cart or something like this and worked for years because there was really no problem with it. And it wasn't, the good thing with medical ones is they weren't tended to be left on in a hot environment like a, you know, an editing place.
Like a broadcast monitor.
Yeah, it's like those have just been in video walls heating up over and over again. So they're not as, you know, people are going to be most happy with settling on something like this, or hell, even the one I did the RGB mod live stream on. If you're worried about money, that's a unbelievable value. You know, you could get a retro screen right there that you can modify and do composite. You could get everything into it besides component video, pretty much. You know, it's like it's so cheap if you RGB mod it. And if you were somebody, Steve, that was into retro gaming, you wanted to have the best analog experience you could have, what is the PVM you should be looking for that gives you the best bang for your buck, the best value, that you have, you know, no regrets that, oh, okay, I didn't spend an extra $600, you know, and but I've got something that's going to last me for the next 10, 15 years, and I'm going to be very happy with. So, like, the best thing you could do for yourself is decide whether you're, I don't know. I mean, if you want the best thing for bang for your buck, we've already been kind of talking about it. It's like this one, right? If you can find it.
It's that Olympus.
But I feel like,
it's that Olympus.
Yeah, because Olympus kind of flies under people's radars a little bit.
It does.
But also, like, all the features. But I think that in this 13/14-inch size format, unless... Yeah, it's harder to get the 20-inch, the 19-inch, and bigger. It's harder to get those. You're paying more on a PVM level.
But there's a logistics hurdle with that, right? Unless you have that.
That's a huge logistics hurdle. But with the 14-inch, see, a lot of people don't realize, like, you can make your single player experience the same between a 14 and 20 almost. It's just the distance you sit from the screen.
Right.
So you get the good thing about a 14-inch is they calibrate beautifully. You can usually get them calibrated better than a 19-inch. The smaller screen size helps. With
you got perfect geometry on those.
Yeah, you can get darn near perfect geometry on a lot of those. So
right.
If it were me, that's what I'm looking for. Number one would be a medical variant of Sony or Olympus, and I would be looking for the 1953 MD or ST. There's a 1953 ST for some reason. It's the same thing as the MD, but
I've never heard of that one. What is
that?
What is the ST?
It's the exact same. It's a medical monitor, but I don't know why they put ST on it instead of MD. I'm not sure. And
Reluctant Hero, the PVM
that's the best one.
1340. I don't know. He's talking about 1340. I think that's a. I think you want to avoid that one.
No, it's good. It's good if it's working. Yeah, no. That's awesome. If you got it for 1340 is fine. It's the 1340.
I think that one's a 4. I think that's a 450 line.
Yeah,
isn't it,
but it might be, but it's still good. I mean, it's not terrible. It's still a good. It does RGB.
Yeah,
it doesn't do component. But it should just do RGB. It might be 450 TV lines. I don't think it's 600. But I mean, if all you do is you get it from an e-waste place and replace a fuse and it works, that's awesome.
If it's free, fuck it.
Or if it's, I mean, either way, that's still got a lot of good value.
Sure.
This is like the best one you could go for. It'd be something like that, or the 20M2 MDUs. Another reason the medicals are so nice, and this goes to the input board. Well, the input board that lets you have two inputs for RGB and component. So you can have RGB and component going into the monitor without switching it up. So
yeah, it is nice having that feature. I mean, so my 42 is just RGB, and and I've got what I've got is a what I have everything feeding into it, but I have RGB. I have it all feeding into a component switch box. I have RGB feeding into a component switch box, feeding out component output into an RGB transcoder that Mike G made. And then into a RGB to BNC SCART to BNC adapter into that, and it works flawlessly with no lag. So I guess what my point is in raising that is don't be dissuaded by this particular PVM doesn't have component input. There's workarounds to that. Those workarounds are $50 to $60, and Mike G makes one. It's a very good solution. I have it. I have multiple actually in my setup right now. And you could save some money. Just getting a monitor. You know, like I have like I just put on my last live stream with Steve. I have a M1, M1J. The difference between the M1 and the M2, the only difference is that the M2 has component input, the M1 is RGB only. That's fine. They're the same monitor otherwise. So don't let that dissuade you from getting a cheaper monitor. There's workarounds and they're good ones.
Well, in the United States, there's plenty of options for component video too, at least because there's more, that's easier to get into. Well, we just hit 3 hours, buddy. You want to go to bed?
What the fuck, man?
Let's get out of here. I got to go to bed. I'm yawning. I'm out of whiskey too.
I'm yawning too.
Everyone,
thanks. But you know what, though, Steve? The audience stuck with us. I mean,
I'm sure they are.
We've got more. We've got more viewers.
I know. I bet if we just left this rolling all night, by the time let's just leave it rolling, and we'll come back tomorrow. And I'll wake up in the morning and roll in here in my outfit and see that we have like 45. Just sitting here. I'll play the jazz loop.
Yeah, why not? That's funny.
All right, man.
That's funny. Thank you to the audience for sticking around.
Absolutely. Thank everybody who came in tonight and had a good time. We had fun. I know I did it.
Yeah, I did too, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, everybody have a wonderful night, and we will catch you guys in the next one. I'm not sure what you have going on next. We will. We'll find out. We'll see if. Hey, the real thing is Lewis is Lewis going to ever talk to either one of us again? So
no, Lewis is done with us. Lewis is done with us for sure.
If you want to be the newest co-host to the Catherine Ray podcast, hit up Zez Retro.
Yeah, there you go. Belmont,
on Twitter.
Belmont, you're the new
Belmont.
co-host.
Yeah, sorry. All right, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time.
Be well, everybody. Bye.